Chapter 2782. Qing Zhu thought that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had no chance to pass through the road of origin. Of course, this was under the condition that Shi Song had not agreed to form an alliance with them. But now, Shi Song had formed an alliance with Shao Chun and the others, so the situation was different. Qing Zhu thought that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had no chance to pass through the road of origin. Of course, this was under the condition that Shi Song had not agreed to form an alliance with them. But now, Shi Song had formed an alliance with Shao Chun and the others, so the situation was different. Of course, Qing Zhu had not guessed this. After all, even though he was an ancestor, he could not predict the future. Therefore, he did not know that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had already entered the origin world, and they had used Shi Song's secret space passage. Shi Song had not told anyone about the secret space passage. Even Qing Zhu and the other ancestors did not know about it. Qing Zhu did not take Shao Chun and Lin Yun seriously. After all, with their strength, they were not a threat to the origin world. Looking at the origin world, world lords like Lin Yun and Shao Chun could be found everywhere. Therefore, Qing Zhu naturally did not value Shao Chun and Lin Yun too much. The only problem was the ancient creatures like the beast slaves. After all, not only were they powerful, but they also didn't listen to the origin world's order. They always did whatever they wanted, which was a threat to the origin world. It seems that it's time to deal with these ancient era creatures, Qing Zhu said faintly as he thought about it. Hearing this, the ancestor sitting opposite Qing Zhu nodded and said, "That's right. These ancient era creatures are a big threat. But let's wait until the new world is formed. At that time, we will be free to deal with them." Now, all the ancestors were busy dealing with the new world. As for the beast slaves, Shi Song and the other ancient era creatures, they were not free to deal with them. After all, these ancient era creatures were not to be trifled with. Even with the origin world's strength, they had to be careful when dealing with them. Therefore, they could only let them go for now and make a decision after the new world was settled. Hearing this, Qing Zhu nodded and then stood up with a smile. "It's really an eventful time. Well, let's follow the plan." After saying that, Qing Zhu and the other primogenitor disappeared from where they stood. In an instant, the two of them had disappeared as well. In the bamboo garden, Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others had tried many ways, but they could not break through the bamboo forest. They had tried everything they could, but the bamboo forest seemed to be impervious to fire and water. It was not affected at all. Just as everyone was sitting in the courtyard at their wits' end, Qing Zhu's figure appeared out of thin air. Looking at the dejected crowd, Qing Zhu did not get angry at their previous actions. Instead, he said with a faint smile on his face, "What's wrong? Are you tired?" From the beginning to the end, Lu Bingning and Qin Shuiro's every move was under Qing Zhu's observation. Qing Zhu could be said to be very clear about what they did after he left. Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others did not answer. They just looked at Qing Zhu coldly. Qing Zhu replied indifferently, "Don't worry and stay here. I won't hurt you. However, you don't have to think about escaping. You can't get out of my bamboo forest." Qing Zhu disappeared again. He did not stay for long. He wasn't worried that Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the rest would be able to leave. Even a world lord wouldn't be able to break into his green bamboo garden, let alone them. Therefore, Qing Zhu did not need to stay here. No matter how hard Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others tried, they could not break through his bamboo forest. They would calm down when they understood. Qing Zhu was not in a hurry. Seeing Qing Zhu leave again, Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the other ladies clenched their teeth. Their eyes were extremely cold. Although they were furious, there was nothing they could do. Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others were completely trapped. They could not do anything about this seemingly ordinary bamboo forest. At the same time, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others rushed to the alliance of the righteous sects under the lead of Shi Song and the beast slave. From afar, the mountain range where the alliance of the righteous sex was located was like a fairyland. It was surrounded by clouds and mist, making people yearn for it. They did not approach the alliance of the righteous sex rashly. After all, the primogenitors of the alliance of the righteous sex were there. Moreover, other than the primogenitors, there were many experts in the alliance of the righteous sex. Sure Song stopped when they were still far away from the alliance of the righteous sex. Xiao Qun and Lin Yun followed closely behind. They landed in a mountain forest. Sure Song said faintly, "You all stay here. I will go in by myself." He did not bring Xiao Qun and Lin Yun along, and he did not even bring his beast slaves. After all, with Xiao Qun and Lin Yun's strength, as long as they entered the alliance of righteous sex, they would not be able to hide from the primogenitor's divine consciousness. At that time, the four of them would be exposed, which would make things even more difficult. It was easier for the four of them to hide in the dark. It was the same for the beast slave. As for Sure Song, he had more techniques than the beast slave. Unlike the beast slave, who was a ferocious beast without spiritual power and could only fight with the power of qi and blood, Sure Song had endless technique. One of them was a divine ability that could conceal one's aura. Sure Song was very confident in his divine ability because even the primogenitors would find it difficult to detect Sure Song after he used it. This was Sure Song's confidence. He sneaked into the alliance of the righteous sex to investigate while Xiao Qun and the other two waited here. The beast slave did not have any objections. Clearly, the beast slave was very confident in Sure Song's techniques. Although this old man was stubborn, his strength was not bad. Coupled with his ever-changing techniques, it was indeed impossible to guard against him. In front of Xiao Qun and the other two, Sure Song directly used his concealing technique. In an instant, Sure Song's aura disappeared instantly. Even though Sure Song was standing in front of Xiao Qun and Lin Yun, the two of them could not sense Sure Song's aura at all. It was as if he did not exist at all. It was a very powerful concealing technique. At least, it was the most powerful concealing technique that Xiao Qun and Lin Yun had seen so far. It was no wonder that Sure Song was so confident. After making preparations, Sure Song warned the three of them, "All of you stay here and be careful not to expose yourselves. Also, the beast slave, especially you, don't mess around. Remember our purpose this time. Once you are exposed, the following things will be difficult." As soon as he finished speaking, Sure Song's figure disappeared on the spot without waiting for the three of them to reply. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2783. The most important thing now was not to expose their whereabouts. After all, this was the only advantage Xiao Qun and the others had. Once their whereabouts were exposed, then Xiao Qun and the others' subsequent actions would definitely be greatly affected. At that time, not to mention rescuing them, they might not even be able to leave the origin world safely. After all, even though Sure Song and the beast slave weren't weak, they were still inferior to the primogenitors. The origin world was the primogenitors' territory, so Sure Song and the beast slave would definitely not be able to protect Xiao Qun and Lin Yun by themselves. Sure Song specially reminded them, especially the beast slave, because he knew that this girl loved to cause trouble and could easily ruin things. Xiao Qun and Lin Yun didn't mind Sure Song's words, but the beast slave pouted unhappily. "Humph, meddling in other people's business." According to Sure Song's instructions, the three of them waited patiently for Sure Song's return. On the other side, Sure Song, who had snuck into the alliance of righteous sex by himself, had successfully entered the alliance of righteous sex. Relying on his powerful concealment technique, Sure Song was indeed not discovered along the way. Although Sure Song sensed countless divine senses scanning the entire alliance of righteous sex over and over again along the way, and there was even a strand of divine sense that came from a primogenitor, Sure Song managed to avoid all of them. The entire alliance of righteous sex seemed to be unguarded, and there wasn't a single person at the entrance. However, it would be a grave mistake to think that the Alliance of Righteous Sects had let down their guard just because of this. Not only did the Alliance of Righteous Sects not let down their guard, it could even be said to be extremely tight. The reason there was no guard was because there was no need for that at all. The weakest person in the Alliance of Righteous Sects was at the Ancestor Realm, and there were many world lords in the Alliance of Righteous Sects. These people would be first-rate experts in the outside world, and their divine senses would have no problem enveloping the entire Alliance of Righteous Sects. Therefore, with so many divine senses enveloping the Alliance of Righteous Sects, was there a need for someone to specially guard it? Under the constant scanning of the divine sense, even a fly that flew into the Righteous Tao Alliance would be detected immediately. With such tight security, it was no wonder that Shi Song didn't bring Shao Chun and Lin Yun along. With their strength, even if they had a way to avoid the detection of an ancestor's divine sense, they wouldn't be able to avoid the detection of a world master's divine sense, let alone a primogenitor. Although the primogenitors couldn't use their divine sense to check the situation of the Righteous Alliance all the time, it wasn't a problem for them to do so from time to time. Under such circumstances, even Shi Song had to be careful and tense, let alone Shao Chun and Lin Yun. Shi Song didn't care about the detection of an ancestor's divine sense at all, nor was he afraid of it. However, Shi Song didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless with the detection of a world master's divine sense. Therefore, after entering the Alliance of Righteous Sects, Shi Song's speed wasn't fast. Every step he took was very careful, especially when he sensed the primogenitor's divine sense. Shi Song immediately stopped and used his concealment technique to completely conceal his aura. As long as a trace of his aura leaked out, it would definitely be detected by the primogenitor. Shi Song was very clear about this. However, as Shi Song advanced cautiously, he finally entered the Alliance of Righteous Sects without any danger. Now, what Shi Song needed to do was naturally to investigate the whereabouts of Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others. There was no need to think about using divine sense unless Shi Song wanted to expose his existence. Therefore, the best way was naturally to capture someone from the Alliance of Righteous Sects and get the answer he wanted from him. He silently snuck into the residence of an expert of the Righteous Path Alliance. This expert was originally in the midst of cultivating, but he was caught off guard and was instantly captured by Shi Song. He instantly took action and sealed the powerful cultivator's cultivation. The powerful cultivator glared at Shi Song in shock and anger, and when he saw who it was, he shouted in agitation, "You're the one who killed me? Shi Song, how dare you trespass into the Alliance of Righteous Sects?" As an expert from the Alliance of Righteous Sects, this person naturally knew Shi Song. Even if he didn't know him, he must have seen a portrait or something. After all, ancient living beings had always been a big problem for the primogenitors. Needless to say, Shi Song had always lived on the road of origin. It could be said that he was one of the ancient living beings closest to the origin world. It was completely unexpected that Shi Song would suddenly appear in the origin world, in the Alliance of Righteous Sects. Wasn't he always in seclusion on the road of origin? Moreover, how could the primogenitors not know that he had left the road of origin? It should be understood that the primogenitors were extremely concerned about any movement of an ancient living being. However, Shi Song had appeared in the Alliance of Righteous Sects silently, and the primogenitors had not noticed him at all. This greatly shocked the expert. In response, Shi Song said indifferently, "I have something to ask you. If you can tell me honestly, we can have a good talk. If not, don't blame me." Shi Song, are you trying to provoke the primogenitors? Have you forgotten the rules? Without the primogenitor's summons, no ancient living being is allowed to enter the origin world. There was indeed such a rule. After all, the ancient living beings were too powerful and could threaten the origin world. Therefore, the primogenitors and the ancient living beings had set a rule. Without the primogenitor's summons or consent, no ancient living being was allowed to enter the origin world. This was to protect the origin world. In the past, there had never been an ancient living being entering the origin world without permission. However, Sure Song had broken this rule. If the primogenitors knew about this, Sure Song would definitely be severely punished. The primogenitors might even kill him at all costs. However, Sure Song did not care about this at all. After hearing what the expert said, Sure Song did not get angry. He only said indifferently, "It seems like you won't take the initiative to cooperate with me? Fine, I'll do it myself." Then, Sure Song did not wait for the expert's reply. He directly used his God Soul to rush into the expert's mind and forcefully search through the expert's memories. This method was actually not rare. Shao Chun had used it before. However, the expert in front of him was a world lord. To Sure Song, even a world lord could not stop him. He forcefully searched through the expert's memories to find the whereabouts of Qin Shuru and Lu Bingning. In response, the expert's body twitched and his face turned extremely pale. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2784. Sure Song's method could be said to be extremely violent, and this kind of forced memory search would cause irreversible damage to the human body. In this person's case, he would probably become a fool after Sure Song finished searching his memories. Sure Song's method could be said to be extremely violent, and this kind of forced memory search would cause irreversible damage to the human body. In this person's case, he would probably become a fool after Sure Song finished searching his memories. However, Sure Song had no intention of letting this person go. Moreover, this person definitely couldn't survive. After all, if he died, he could delay Shao Chen and the others for a longer time. In just a few dozen breaths, Sure Song found what he wanted. In this person's memory, there was indeed information about Lu Bingning and the others. After getting the answer he wanted, Sure Song didn't feel the slightest bit of joy because things were more troublesome than he had imagined. Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and Shao Chun and Lin Yun's families were now imprisoned in the Righteous Tao Alliance's green bamboo forest, while Mo He and He Zhu's families were imprisoned in the Dark Age. In other words, the people Shao Chun and the others wanted to save were now imprisoned in two different places. This undoubtedly greatly increased the difficulty of the rescue. Sure Song frowned slightly and withdrew his divine sense. At the same time, this expert from the Righteous Tao Alliance directly collapsed to the ground, his eyes empty. "This is a bit difficult," Sure Song murmured softly. Since he had obtained the answer, Sure Song naturally wouldn't stay here for long. As he spoke, he prepared to leave. However, before he left, Sure Song caught the spy who was investigating with his divine sense. With a point of his finger, this expert was directly beheaded. At the same time, Sure Song erased the corpse. Not even the corpse was left behind. It was as if this person didn't exist at all. After doing all this, Sure Song quietly left the Righteous Tao Alliance. He returned to the forest where Shao Chen and the others were hiding. Seeing that Sure Song had returned safely, Shao Chen and Lin Yun secretly sighed in relief. However, the beast slave grumpily asked, "How was it? Did you get anything?" "I've already figured it out," Sure Song replied faintly. Hearing this, Shao Chun and Lin Yun were delighted. This was undoubtedly good news for them. However, after Sure Song told Shao Chun and Lin Yun what had happened, their expressions became solemn again. Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru's families were imprisoned in the Righteous Tao Alliance, while Mo He and He Zhu's families were imprisoned in the Dark Age. They were imprisoned in different places. If they rescued one of them first, they wouldn't have a chance to rescue the other. Once the rescue started, the primogenitors would find out. Thus, Shao Chun and the others only had one chance. Moreover, after they succeeded, they had to go to Sure Song's secret space passage and leave the origin world immediately. Otherwise, no one would be able to leave at that time. In this way, it seemed that they only had the ability to rescue one side. They could only choose to rescue one side and give up on the other side. This was the best choice. Logically speaking, it wasn't difficult for Xiao Chen and Lin Yun to choose. Of course, rescuing their families was the most important. However, when they came to the origin world, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun had promised He Zhu and Mo He that they would rescue their families. According to the development of the matter, if Xiao Chen and Lin Yun failed, it would be understandable. He Zhu and Mo He wouldn't blame them. However, if Xiao Chen and Lin Yun succeeded in rescuing Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru but didn't rescue Mo He and He Zhu's families, what would they think? Moreover, with Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's personalities, they would definitely fulfill their promises. Giving up He Zhu and Mo He's families wasn't something Xiao Chen and Lin Yun could do. Must-read room therefore, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun quickly rejected the idea of rescuing one side and giving up the other side. Shi Song didn't say much about it. He just said, if we want to rescue both sides, the difficulty will increase greatly. Moreover, the success rate will decrease greatly. After all, we only have one chance. If we don't succeed, we will die trying. There was no extra time for Xiao Chen and the others to rescue one side and then the other side. They didn't even need to wait for Xiao Chen and the others to rescue the other side because the primal ancestors would have stopped them. After hesitating for a while, Xiao Chen finally said, "Let's split up. That's the only way we have a chance of success." It was impossible to rescue both sides. They had to split up and act at the same time. That was the only way they had a chance of success. While rescuing Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru, they had to rescue He Zhu and Mo He's families who were in the Dark Age. After that, they would rush to Shi Song's secret space passage and leave the origin world. That was the only way. Hearing Xiao Chen's suggestion, Lin Yun didn't refuse. Shi Song didn't deny it either. As for the beast slave, it wasn't suitable for her to use her brain. Thus, she didn't want to participate. Since they couldn't give up He Zhu and Mo He's families, only Xiao Chen's method was feasible. However, Xiao Chen's group of 4 was small. If they had to split up, it would be more dangerous and risky. However, Xiao Chen still insisted. Lin Yun nodded in agreement after pondering for a while. In the end, according to the discussion between Shi Song, Xiao Chen, and Lin Yun, they decided that Shi Song would go to the Dark Age alone to rescue Mo He and He Zhu's families. The beast slave, Xiao Chen, and Lin Yun would go to the green bamboo forest to rescue Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru. Shi Song nodded in agreement. The most important thing in this rescue mission was the beast slave and Shi Song. After all, with Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's strength, they probably couldn't even break the restrictions set by the primogenitors, let alone rescue them. Therefore, the beast slave and Shi Song had to be separated. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun would follow the beast slave because the beast slave was careless and might mess things up. Thus, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun would follow the beast slave. After settling the matter, Shi Song didn't delay and directly set off for the Dark Age. Before they left, they agreed to take action at the same time. Wait for my news. When I take action, all of you should take action as well. After you succeed, you can't delay. Head directly to the spatial tunnel. There's no need to wait. Leave the origin world first. We'll meet in the outside world. Shi Song instructed them before he left. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun nodded solemnly when they heard Shi Song. Then, Shi Song left alone and rushed to the Dark Age. Lin Yun and Xiao Chen continued to hide in the surroundings with the beast slave. After Shi Song arrived at the Dark Age, both sides would take action at the same time to carry out the rescue plan. To be honest, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun weren't confident about this rescue mission. However, they had to try no matter what. Please add it to your collection. Please recommend it. Chapter 2785. According to what they had discussed earlier, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the beast slave had been hiding in the periphery of the Righteous Path Alliance. They didn't approach the alliance rashly because if they were discovered at this time, all their efforts would be in vain. It was better to be careful. However, while they were hiding, Shao Chun and the other two deliberately approached the green bamboo forest. Although the green bamboo forest was located in the center of the Righteous Path Alliance, Shao Chun and the others could still adjust their direction so that they could approach the green bamboo forest at the fastest speed possible. Then, they could successfully rescue Lu Bingning, Qin Shuru, and the others. They waited patiently for the news from Shi Song. In less than a day, at night, Shi Song finally sent a message. With Shi Song's strength and him being alone, his speed was naturally much faster than everyone moving together. He didn't plan to rest because late at night was the best time to act. After receiving Shi Song's message, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave looked at each other and then nodded at the same time. Then, they directly charged towards the Righteous Path Alliance. At this moment, the three of them didn't care about their whereabouts being exposed. They only had one chance to rescue someone. The three of them knew that. Once they failed, let alone rescuing someone, they might not even be able to leave the origin world safely. Therefore, Shao Chun and the others were racing against time. With their full speed, they charged into the alliance of the righteous sect. Following their actions, the experts of the alliance of the righteous sects naturally discovered the intruders. In an instant, terrifying auras soared into the sky from within the alliance of the righteous sects. The weakest of these auras was at the Ancestor realm. There were many auras at the World Lord realm. Facing this, Shao Chun and the others' expressions didn't change. The beast slave even shouted in a low voice, "Ignore them. Kill our way in." Now wasn't the time to be indecisive. They had to kill their way in and rescue someone in the shortest time possible. Hearing this, Shao Chun and Lin Yun didn't reduce their speed either. They followed closely behind the beast slave, and the three of them rushed into the Righteous Path Alliance. However, just as the three of them entered the Righteous Tao Alliance, there were already experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance blocking their path. There weren't many of them, but they weren't weak. The Righteous Path Alliance's reaction was indeed very fast. Facing the sudden attack of the three, they reacted immediately. Moreover, these experts of the Righteous Path Alliance didn't need any orders at all. After detecting the intruders, they instantly understood what they had to do. Looking at the experts of the Righteous Alliance who were blocking his path, the beast slave did not slow down at all. Instead, he dashed forward and threw out a punch. The space crumbled as a terrifying chi and blood energy gushed out. With just one punch, he killed all the experts who were blocking his path. These people were all Ancestor stage expert. However, they did not even have the ability to retaliate in front of the beast slave. Moreover, the beast slave did not hold back at all. Even though he was facing Ancestor stage experts, the beast slave had used all of his strength in that punch in order to kill these people in the shortest time possible. He broke through the blockade of the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance with just one punch. Then, the beast slave led Shao Chun and Lin Yun towards the bamboo forest without slowing down. For the rest of the journey, the three of them were indeed blocked by many powerhouses from the Alliance of Righteous Sections. There were even powerhouses at the level of a world lord. When they saw the beast slave, Shao Chun, and Lin Yun, they all shouted angrily. "Shao Chun, Lin Yun, are the two of you seeking death? You actually dared to trespass into the Righteous Tao Alliance. Aren't you afraid of the Lord Primogenitor's punishment? And you, beast slave, have you forgotten the rules? Without the Lord Primogenitor's permission, ancient living beings are not allowed to trespass into the origin world. Yet you actually dared to trespass into the Righteous Tao Alliance and kill their people. Beast slave, do you really think the Lord Primogenitor can't do anything to you?" Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the beast slave's sudden appearance in the Righteous Tao Alliance had indeed shocked all the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Who would have imagined that the three of them would actually arrive at the Righteous Tao Alliance without anyone noticing? Moreover, they had even used the cover of night to launch a surprise attack on the Righteous Tao Alliance. Such a thing had never happened since the Righteous Tao Alliance had been established. With the Righteous Tao Alliance's strength, besides their sworn enemy, the Dark Age, no one else would dare to do such an audacious thing. However, even if they were unwilling to believe it, the truth was right before their eyes. The beast slave, Shao Chen, and Lin Yun had really appeared in the Righteous Tao Alliance. Moreover, they had killed many experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Of course, these experts had basically died at the hands of the beast slave. Along the way, the beast slave was simply like a god of death that had descended to the world. He did not give the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance the slightest chance at all. So long as he encountered them, he would directly kill them. He was completely unreasonable. As for Shao Chen and Lin Yun, they were more like following behind the beast slave, looking for opportunities to attack and kill some fish that had escaped the net. However, the three of them cooperated very well. The beast slave was the main, while Shao Chen and Lin Yun were the support. Therefore, even though the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance kept obstructing them, they were unable to stop Shao Chen and the other two from breaking through. At this time, the three of them were already close to the green bamboo forest. However, just as they were about to enter the green bamboo forest, the three of them encountered the fiercest obstruction. They had the largest number of people, and their strength was also extremely strong. Just the World Lords alone numbered as many as 9. These World Lords blocked the path of Shao Chen and the other two. They shouted angrily, intending to use the name of their ancestors to intimidate Shao Chen and the other two. Unfortunately, what they received in response was the beast slave's fierce attack. Bullsh *T, even if you ask those old fellows to come out personally, I would not be afraid, let alone you shrimp soldiers and crab generals. The beast slave shouted coldly and took the lead to rush out. In the next moment, Shao Chen and Lin Yun saw a scene that made them flabbergasted. The beast slave was like a human-shaped tyrannosaurus, rampaging through the crowd. Even a world lord was directly grabbed by the beast slave and turned into his weapon. With a world lord in his hand, the beast slave rushed forward crazily. In the face of the beast slave's terrifying physical body and power of vitality, these experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance were completely helpless. With the strength of the beast slave's physical body, he simply ignored their attacks. As for these experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance, although their attacks were indeed effective against the beast slave, there was no way to cause fatal injuries. The beast slave, who had the appearance of a little girl, displayed violence at this moment, which did not match her appearance at all. It gave people a feeling that there was a huge difference. In this regard, Shao Chen and Lin Yun naturally did not stay idle. As soon as the beast slave attacked, the two of them also attacked at the same time to help the beast slave. In the shortest time possible, they directly tore apart the blockade of the experts from the Righteous Tao Alliance. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendation. Chapter 2786. Stop them! Quick! Stop them! Seeing that the beast slave, Shao Chen, and Lin Yun were about to break through the encirclement, many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects shouted angrily. Stop them! Quick! Stop them! Seeing that the beast slave, Shao Chen, and Lin Yun were about to break through the encirclement, many experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects shouted angrily. In the history of the Alliance of the Righteous Sects, this had never happened before. Therefore, if Shao Chen, the beast slave, and the other two succeeded this time, it would be a great humiliation to the Alliance of the Righteous Sects. Following the roar of the crowd, the remaining experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects naturally did not dare to hold back. They all attacked fiercely towards Shao Chen, Lin Yun, and the beast slave. Even so, the beast slave and the other two continued to approach the green bamboo forest. It was indeed difficult for these experts from the Alliance of the Righteous Sects to stop the beast slave, Shao Chen, and the other two. especially the beast slave. As an ancient creature, the beast slave's strength was far from what these experts from the alliance of the righteous sex could compare with. Moreover, in order to buy time, the beast slave did not hold back at all from the beginning and went all out. In this way, with the beast slave leading the way, it was indeed impossible for the alliance of the righteous sex to stop Shao Chen and the other two. Resisting the attacks of many experts from the alliance of the righteous sex, the three of them rushed all the way into the green bamboo forest. At this time, the green bamboo forest, which was supposed to trap Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others, became a stumbling block for many experts from the alliance of the righteous sex. No. After Shao Chen and the other two rushed into the green bamboo forest, the green bamboo forest sensed that someone had invaded and instantly began to move automatically. However, the experts from the alliance of the righteous sex who were chasing after them were blocked by the green bamboo forest. With their attacks, there was no way they could break through green bamboo's defense. After all, this green bamboo forest was personally planted by green bamboo. At the same time, it was carefully cultivated. The green bamboo in this bamboo forest could completely withstand the attacks of a world lord. As they watched Shao Chen and the other two enter the green bamboo forest, they could only watch anxiously from the outside. Immediately, someone asked, "Where is Lord Primogenitor?" He could only rely on the primogenitors. After all, the beast slave was an ancient being. Only the primogenitors could subdue him. However, all of this had happened too suddenly. Moreover, less than 100 breaths of time had passed since Shao Chen's group had attacked, so the primogenitors had probably only just received the news. It was certain that Shao Chen's actions had been planned long ago. Perhaps they had been lying in ambush around the Righteous Path Alliance, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Although they had guessed that Shao Chen and the other two had been lying in ambush around the Righteous Path Alliance, they could not change anything now that things had come to this. In the green bamboo forest, Shao Chen and Lin Yun were also unable to cause any damage to the green bamboo forest. The green bamboo forest continued to gather towards Shao Chen and the other two. Secondly, it was obvious that they wanted to completely surround the three of them. However, the beast slave could destroy the green bamboo forest. After all, she was an ancient being and her strength was far greater than a world lord's. The green bamboo forest could withstand the attack of a world lord, but it could not withstand the attack of an ancient being. Just like that, the beast slave had become a pathfinder. She led Shao Chen and Lin Yun all the way into the depths of the green bamboo forest. QQ the beast slave destroyed any green bamboo forest that blocked their way without hesitation. Shao Chen and Lin Yun followed closely behind the beast slave and did not do anything unnecessary. To be honest, Shao Chen and Lin Yun could not do anything in front of the green bamboo forest. Fortunately, they had the beast slave. Otherwise, even if Shao Chen and Lin Yun successfully entered the green bamboo forest, they would not be able to find Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others. Instead, they would be trapped in the green bamboo forest. However, now that they had the beast slave, everything was different. The beast slave's strength was enough to destroy the green bamboo forest. This left Shao Chen and Lin Yun with a lot of trouble. Along the way, they did not have the time to think about other things. Instead of saying that Shao Chen and the other two were dealing with the green bamboo forest, it was more like a race against time. After all, they had to rescue Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others before the primogenitors arrived. Only then would they have a chance to escape. The beast slave clearly understood the importance of time. Therefore, at this moment, the beast slave did not dare to be careless. He ran all the way. Soon, the group of people broke through the green bamboo forest and arrived outside the important courtyard of the green bamboo forest. Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others naturally noticed what was happening in the green bamboo forest early on. Looking at the changes in the green bamboo forest, Qin Shuru and the others guessed that someone had broken into the green bamboo forest. During this period, the few of them spent a lot of effort investigating the green bamboo forest. They knew that the green bamboo forest was definitely not as simple as it looked on the surface. As long as there was an intruder, the green bamboo forest would automatically defend against the intruder. The various changes just now all told them that someone had indeed broken into the green bamboo forest, and the green bamboo forest was frantically defending against the intruder. Since they did not know who had broken into the green bamboo forest, Chin Shuru and the others quickly became alert and looked outside the courtyard with burning eyes. Under everyone's gaze, the movements in the green bamboo forest became louder and louder. Moreover, they could feel that the intruder was getting closer and closer to them. Just when Chin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others' hearts were in their throats, the beast slave took the lead to kill his way out of the green bamboo forest. They did not know the beast slave, but soon Xiao Chen and Lin Yun appeared. Chin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others were delighted. They did not expect Xiao Chen and Lin Yun to come. Without thinking much, the few of them immediately went up to them. Seeing that everyone was fine, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun also felt relieved. However, now was not the time to relax. They had not come into contact with danger yet. Xiao Chen did not have time to say much and only said one sentence. Now is not the time to talk. Let's go. Although they also had a lot to say to Chin Shuru and the others, now was obviously not the time. Seeing Chin Shuru and the others did not mean that they had succeeded. Don't forget that they had not left the origin world yet. Before leaving the origin world, they could not relax their vigilance. Otherwise, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chin Shuru and the others were very obedient. Knowing that the situation was critical, they immediately followed Xiao Chen and Lin Yun and quickly left the green bamboo forest. They did not go back the way they came. Instead, the beast slave led the way and everyone rushed out of the green bamboo forest in another direction. This was also Xiao Chen's plan. After all, the other side of the green bamboo forest was closer to the periphery of the Alliance of Righteous Sect. As long as they left the green bamboo forest from the other side, they could escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects immediately. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2787. Along the way, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others were extremely nervous because the next step was the most dangerous one. No one knew when the primogenitors would appear. According to the previous plan, before the primogenitors appeared, Xiao Chen and the others had to successfully escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects. If they were blocked by the primogenitors in the Alliance of Righteous Sects, Xiao Chen and the others would not have any hope of escaping even with the help of the beast slave. Therefore, the most critical problem they faced was whether they could escape from the Alliance of Righteous Sects before the primogenitors arrived. The beast slave also knew this, so when he attacked, he did not hesitate. The green bamboos blocking the way were directly smashed by the beast slave. In the green bamboo forest, the beast slave forcefully opened a bloody path for Xiao Chen and the others. Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others followed behind the beast slave without stopping. Even Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Dongfang Lin knew that the current situation was critical. They did not dare to be careless and only followed by the others. This was definitely a life and death escape, so there was no room for carelessness. They rushed out of the green bamboo forest from the other side. However, after rushing out of the green bamboo forest, there were also experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects blocking the way. Xiao Chen and the others were not surprised at all. At this moment, the entire green bamboo forest was probably surrounded. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects in this direction. Fortunately, these experts from the Alliance of Righteous Sects had obviously just arrived. Before they were ready, they saw Xiao Chen and the others rushing out of the green bamboo forest. Therefore, when they saw Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others, these experts from the alliance of righteous sects, were obviously more surprised than Shao Chun and the others. This was because they did not expect Shao Chun and the others to escape from the green bamboo forest so quickly. However, they simply ignored their surprise. When both sides met, Shao Chun and the others did not hesitate at all and immediately attacked. What a joke! If he still wanted to waste time at this time, he would really be tired of living. Shao Chun and Lin Yun's side took the initiative to attack, still with the beast slave at the center. The beast slave charged at the front, while Shao Chun and the rest followed closely behind the beast slave as support. The group of people were like sharp spears, directly charging into the blockade of the righteous sects alliance, breaking out of the encirclement. On one hand, they weren't prepared at all. On the other hand, they hadn't expected Shao Chun's group to appear so quickly. Thus, in just a single exchange, the blockade set up by the experts of the righteous path was torn apart by Shao Chun's group. This was especially true for the beast slaves, as no one was able to stop them. Without the primogenitor around, the beast slaves were absolutely invincible. Shao Chun and the others did not waste much time in breaking through the blockade set up by the cultivators of the Alliance of the Righteous. Although the experts of the Righteous Tao Alliance from other places rushed over as soon as they noticed the commotion, they were still a step too late in the end and couldn't successfully surround Shao Chun's group. After breaking through the blockade, Shao Chun's group didn't stop. They charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance without the slightest intention of lingering in the battle. The battle erupted in an instant and ended in an instant. In almost the blink of an eye, the beast slave led Shao Chun's group out of the encirclement and charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance's group. At the same time, a terrifying aura descended from the sky. Needless to say, it was the arrival of the primogenitors of the Righteous Tao Alliance. Century the beast slave and the rest frowned. They didn't feel the slightest bit of joy because they knew that the real test was coming. The primogenitors had already appeared. Fortunately, according to the previous plan, they had successfully broken through the blockade of the Righteous Tao Alliance before the primogenitors appeared. Now that they had successfully charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance, they still had a chance. They charged out without looking back. At the same time, behind Shao Chun's group, Qing Zhu and another primogenitor of the Righteous Tao Alliance appeared in the sky above the green bamboo forest. Seeing the destruction of the green bamboo forest by the beast slave, a cold glint flashed across Qing Zhu's eyes. He said coldly, "What a beast slave! It seems like you really want to die." He knew that this was the work of the beast slave. After all, Shao Chun and Lin Yun weren't able to do this. Moreover, they were able to successfully rescue Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others because of the beast slave's help. Otherwise, Shao Chun and Lin Yun wouldn't have been able to do it. The ancient creatures had always been a great threat to the primogenitors. The actions of the beast slave had undoubtedly touched the bottom line of the primogenitors. Not only had he violated the agreement between the ancient creatures and the primogenitors by entering the origin world without permission, but he had also dared to directly attack the headquarters of the Righteous Tao Alliance. This was no different than openly challenging the dignity of the primogenitors. Seal all the entrances and exits of the origin world. Qing Zhu immediately gave the order to seal all the entrances and exits of the origin world. He wanted to catch a turtle in a jar. Without these passages, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others couldn't leave the origin world. As long as they stayed in the origin world, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others would have nowhere to run. Of course, Qing Zhu naturally didn't know that other than the spatial passages that they controlled, there was actually another secret spatial passage that connected the origin world to the outside world. This passage had been constructed by Shi Song. From the beginning, Shao Chun and the others hadn't thought about leaving the origin world through the passages of the primogenitors, because that was equivalent to walking right into a trap. Therefore, after Shao Chun and the others had charged out of the Righteous Tao Alliance, They had headed straight for Song's spatial passage. That spatial passage could be said to be Shao Qin and the others' only life-saving straw. Without that spatial passage, even if Shao Qin and the others succeeded in rescuing Qin Shiru and Lu Bingning, they obviously wouldn't be able to leave the origin world, because the primogenitors would definitely seal all the spatial passages that led to the origin world. In that way, Shao Qin and the others would be trapped in the origin world and become turtles in a jar. However, it was different now. With Song's spatial passage, Shao Qin and the others could leave the origin world without anyone noticing. At that time, even if the primogenitors found out, it would be useless. Apparently, Ancestor Qing didn't know that there was a space passage in the origin world that none of them knew about. After giving the order to seal the entire origin world, the anger in Ancestor Qing's eyes slowly dispersed. In his eyes, Shao Qin and the others couldn't escape. Even if they escaped from the alliance of the orthodox sects, it didn't matter. The entire origin world had become an even bigger cage that trapped Shao Qin and the others inside. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 2788. Qing Zhu thought that as long as he sealed the entire origin world, Shao Qin and the others wouldn't be able to escape. They would be trapped like turtles in a jar. However, he didn't know that there was a space tunnel in the origin world that none of them knew about. In the end, Qing Zhu and the others were too confident and underestimated their opponent. They always thought that Shao Qin and the others were nothing. Even if they had the help of the beast slaves, they were still fish on the chopping block of the primogenitors. It would be easy to capture them. Because of this underestimation, Qing Zhu and the others didn't chase after them immediately. This gave Shao Qin, Lin Yun, and the others a chance. Perhaps in Qing Zhu's opinion, even if Shao Qin and the others ran away, where could they go? The origin world was their territory. After so many years, the origin world had become as solid as a rock. As long as the primogenitors didn't allow it, even a fly couldn't fly out. Seeing that Qing Zhu didn't chase after them immediately, and instead gave the order to seal the entire origin world, the beast slaves who were running all the way sneered. This group of idiots, one day they will pay for their arrogance. Seeing that Qing Zhu and the others didn't chase after them immediately, the beast slaves naturally knew what Qing Zhu and the others were thinking. They were just arrogant and didn't take them seriously. However, regardless of whether it was because of Qing Zhu's arrogance or something else, his action was undoubtedly giving Shao Qin and the others a chance. Without thinking much, they ran towards the space tunnel that Song had used. Qin Shiru, Lu Bingning, and the others didn't know about Shao Qin and Lin Yun's plan. However, they were smart enough not to ask anything along the way. Anyway, they trusted their husbands unconditionally. The route had been planned long ago. Therefore, after they escaped from the alliance of the righteous sects, they ran towards the secret space tunnel according to the route they had planned. They didn't dare to stop along the way. On the other side, after Qing Zhu gave the order to seal the entire origin world, he said to another primogenitor, "These ancient creatures are getting more and more outrageous. Then let's kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Let's start with the beast slaves. They're like turtles in a jar now." The primogenitor laughed. It was unknown whether it was because they had been at the top for too long, but no one could threaten the primogenitors. Therefore, these primogenitors were extremely arrogant. They felt that everything in the world was under their control. No matter what they encountered, they didn't take their opponents seriously at all. To put it nicely, they were confident to say that they were confident. But to put it bluntly, they were arrogant. Qing Zhu and the others. It could be said that Qing Zhu and the others didn't chase after them. Qing Zhu to Shao Ants. In Qing Zhu's mind, even if he let Shao Qin and the others run, where could they run to? The entire origin world was like a huge cage to Shao Qin and the others. Everything was under his control. However, Qing Zhu didn't know that Shao Qin and the others had already opened a hole in this huge cage. It was big enough for them to crawl out and escape with their lives. 29 GGQing Zhu's overconfidence had caused him to miss the best opportunity to capture them. At the same time, it was also good news for Xiao Chen and the others to escape. Overconfidence in many things would turn into arrogance. Qing Zhu was like that now. He always felt that everything was under his control. However, he didn't know that things had already gotten out of his control. Qing Zhu said coldly, "Cornered beasts will still put up a desperate fight. Everyone in the world is always so ignorant. Arrange for someone to locate them." Qing Zhu felt that Xiao Chen and the others were like cornered beasts. Even if they rescued them, they wouldn't be able to leave the origin world. In the end, nothing could be changed. Xiao Chen and the others naturally didn't know what Qing Zhu was thinking. At this moment, they were already far away from the alliance of righteous sect. They were rushing through Shursong's space passage. Seeing that Qing Zhu and the others still hadn't caught up with them, they were secretly relieved. However, they still didn't slow down. Before they escaped from the origin world, Xiao Chen didn't dare to relax. Glancing at Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the others beside him, Xiao Chen smiled. Fortunately, they didn't attack him. Moreover, they had successfully escaped. This was the most perfect result. Xiao Chen didn't dare to have any more extravagant hope. The plan went smoother than expected. Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the others also felt relieved after seeing Xiao Chen. Although they didn't say anything, their hearts were at peace. At least, compared to the previous period of time, this was the case. They arrived at Shursong's space passage without any obstructions. When Xiao Chen and the others arrived, they were very surprised to see that Shursong had also brought Mo He, Ancestor He, and the others' families here. Seeing that Shursong had successfully rescued them, Beast Slave didn't ask much and directly said, "You've arrived so quickly. Those old bastards must not have stopped you, right? Those old bastards are all arrogant. They always think that everything is under their control." "How ridiculous," Shursong said with a smile. Shursong's situation was similar to Xiao Chen's. At the last moment, Ancestor Mu and the others from the Dark Era didn't chase after them. Instead, they chose to seal the origin world just like Qing Zhu. The same confidence allowed Ancestor Mu and the others to obtain the same result. It also allowed Shursong to easily bring them to the space passage. Beast Slave smiled disdainfully when he heard Shursong's words. Then, the group didn't linger. They directly rushed into the space passage and disappeared from the origin world. Ancestor Qing, Ancestor Mu, and the others probably didn't expect that Xiao Chen and the others, who seemed like cornered beasts to them, had already safely left the origin world. They were still searching for Xiao Chen and the others' whereabouts in the origin world. Their arrogance made them pay the price. They missed the best opportunity to capture Xiao Chen and the others. This incident undoubtedly told the primogenitors that not everything in this world was under their control. The beings in this world that they had always looked down on weren't as ignorant as they had imagined. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2789. Xiao Chen's group successfully rushed into Shursong's spatial tunnel and escaped. Inside the origin world, many experts were still conducting a thorough search under the command of the primogenitors. In everyone's opinion, it was impossible for Xiao Chen's group to leave the origin world because all the tunnels between the origin world and the outside world were sealed immediately. As long as Xiao Chen's group appeared, they would be detected immediately. Therefore, everyone was sure that Xiao Chen's group was still in the origin world. However, no one realized that Xiao Chen's group had already left the origin world. It was worth mentioning that the primogenitors did not participate in the search personally. In their opinion, they did not need to take action. They only needed to capture the beast slaves at the crucial moment. As for Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others, to be honest, the primogenitors did not take them seriously at all. Arrogance was the biggest flaw of the primogenitors. However, This was not important to Xiao Chen's group. At this moment, the group returned to the road of origin through Song's spatial tunnel and successfully left the origin world. It was an extremely dangerous operation. However, the final result was undoubtedly perfect. Not only did they successfully rescue their families, but everyone was also fine. The feeling of surviving a disaster rose in everyone's hearts. Xiao Chen could not help but smile when he saw that Qin Shuru and the other women were fine. At the same time, he asked Xiao Qing and Bai Ryue with concern, "Father, Mother, are you okay?" Xiao Chen blamed himself for causing the two of them to suffer such an unexpected disaster. However, Xiao Qing and Bai Ryue smiled to show that they were fine. In fact, the primogenitors did not make things difficult for them when they were captured and brought to the origin world. In other words, they did not see any other primogenitors except for Ancestor Qing. Ancestor Qing did not harm them. He only restricted their movements and did not deliberately punish them in any other way. Their parents were fine. Then, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun looked at the beast slaves. Song said, "Shall we go back together?" Song and the beast slave were now considered to be in the same camp. Therefore, after successfully breaking out of the encirclement, it was time for everyone to leave. Hearing this, the beast slave smiled and said, "I'll go with you, but this old man is probably going to visit other ancient creatures." The beast slaves indicated that he would go with Xiao Chen's group. As for Song, he was going to contact other ancient life forms. Naturally, Song and the beast slaves could only complete the task of roping in other ancient life forms. It was not that Xiao Chen's group did not want to help, but they could not help if they caused trouble. Putting aside the fact that Xiao Chen had no idea where the other ancient creatures were, even if he did, given their tempers, they probably wouldn't bother with him. Only Song and the beast slave, who were also ancient creatures, could speak to them as equals. Therefore, Xiao Chen did not say much about Song and the beast slave's decision. He only bowed respectfully to Song and said, "Thank you, Senior." The ancient life forms were the only hope for Xiao Chen's group to fight against the origin world. Only by relying on the ancient life form's powerful strength could the various universes have a chance to fight against the origin world. 16K Chinese otherwise, the world lords like Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were no match for the primogenitors. Although the primogenitors did not seem to care about them now, when they really took action, Xiao Chen's alliance would be destroyed in an instant without the protection of the ancient life forms. It could be said that the ancient life forms were the hope of Xiao Chen's group. Therefore, Song's departure was inevitable. At the same time, Xiao Chen also hoped that Song would gain something from this trip. He hoped that the other ancient life forms would understand the seriousness of this so-called new world and unite to fight against the origin world. Song did not chat too much. After coming up with a plan, Song left alone. Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others also left on the spatial spirit boat. The group gradually left the origin world. On the spatial spirit boat, Xiao Chen, Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the other girls were gathered together. Lin Yun was also with her family. However, the beast slaves were always with Xiao Chen. Although the beast slaves was an ancient life form, she had a very cheerful personality. Soon, she had become friends with Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the other girls. Xiao Chen was naturally happy to see this. Having a good relationship with the beast slaves was absolutely beneficial to Xiao Chen. Moreover, the rescue mission this time was all thanks to the beast slave. If it weren't for her, they probably wouldn't have succeeded. Therefore, Xiao Chen was very grateful to the beast slaves. As they were chatting, 100-Flower Fairy sat next to Xiao Chen and asked gently, "Husband, are we really going to fight against the origin world?" After being kidnapped to the origin world, 100-Flower Fairy naturally knew about the plan of the primogenitors about the new world. She also knew that her husband had established an alliance with the intention of fighting against the origin world. Although Hundred Flower Fairy did not like this new world and was even against it, she couldn't help but feel worried when she thought about how Xiao Chun would fight against the origin world in the future. Even though Hundred Flower Fairy was very smart, she knew that with the origin world's mighty strength, some schemes would be meaningless because it wouldn't be enough to make up for the gap between the two sides. Seeing Hundred Flower Fairy's worry, Xiao Chun patted her head affectionately and said, "There are some things that we must do even though we know we can't. The new world that the primogenitors have imagined will destroy this world. Therefore, even though we know the gap between our strengths, there are some things that we can't shrink back from. It's an unavoidable problem." Xiao Chun also knew the result of going against the origin world. It could even be said that this was a battle that they couldn't win. Even with the help of the ancient life forms like the beast slaves, there was still a gap between them and the origin world. However, even so, Xiao Chun didn't regret his choice because the new world in the primogenitors' minds wasn't what they wanted. It would destroy this world. Hearing Xiao Chun's words, Hundred Flower Fairy smiled. Then, she leaned on Xiao Chun's chest and said softly but firmly, "Yeah, we'll support whatever decision you make." As his wife, Hundred Flower Fairy would unconditionally support Xiao Chun's decision. No matter what, the other women would stay by Xiao Chun's side and face it with him, no matter what happened. Please add, please vote, please recommend. Chapter 2790. Hundred Flower Fairy's words warmed Xiao Chun's heart. After all, anyone would be touched to receive such unconditional support. Hundred Flower Fairy's words warmed Xiao Chun's heart. After all, anyone would be touched to receive such unconditional support. The spatial spirit ship traveled rapidly in the endless starry sky. Xiao Chun had contacted Mu Lingxian and learned that they were making good progress. During this period of time, they had roped in a few more cosmoses to join the alliance. Moreover, the origin world didn't seem to care about them during the whole process. Xiao Chun naturally knew what the origin world was thinking. To put it bluntly, they looked down on him and the others. They felt that even if they let Xiao Chun and the others do what they wanted, it wouldn't change anything. They were completely despised by the primogenitors. However, Xiao Chun didn't care too much about it. The arrogance and pride of the primogenitors had given Xiao Chun and the others the opportunity and time to do so. This was undoubtedly good news for Xiao Chun and the others. The alliance's strength was still growing. With the efforts of Mu Lingxian and the others, more and more people realized that what the origin world was doing now was directly destroying this world. Therefore, many people chose to join the alliance and fight against the origin world together because no one wanted to see such a new world appear. Everything was going well on Mu Lingxian's side. Xiao Chun and the others were on their way back to the Hongmeng world. The Hongmeng world had become the headquarters of the alliance and many experts had gathered there. They didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. The primogenitors of the origin world probably hadn't noticed that Xiao Chun and the others had escaped from the origin world and were still searching for them. However, this matter couldn't be hidden for long. Xiao Chun was very clear about this. He didn't plan to hide it for long because it couldn't be hidden at all. One day passed. After a day of searching in the origin world, they didn't find any trace of Xiao Chun and the others. They didn't even find a single clue. Therefore, some people in the origin world began to have doubts. Because if Xiao Chun and the others were still in the origin world, it was impossible for them to not find any clues. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air. At this moment, a group of experts from the Righteous Path Alliance finally discovered Shursong's spatial channel. The discovery of an unknown spatial channel shocked the entire Righteous Path Alliance. No one had thought that someone had secretly opened a space passage that connected to the origin world. Moreover, even the ancestors didn't know about it. It could be said that they deceived everyone. Once the spatial passageway was discovered, everyone understood that Xiao Chun's group wasn't in the origin world at all. When the primal ancestors had sealed the origin world, Shao Chun and the others had left the origin world through this secret passage without anyone knowing. When they thought about how Shao Chen's group had escaped unscathed and deceived everyone, many experts from the Righteous Path Alliance turned ashen. In their opinion, this was undoubtedly a humiliation to the Righteous Path Alliance. It was unforgivable. The news quickly reached the ears of the Green Ancestor and the other primal ancestors. Soon, a primal ancestor from the Righteous Path Alliance personally rushed to Shursong's spatial channel. Looking at the spatial channel before him, the primal ancestor's face was calm and didn't seem to be angry at all. However, if one paid attention, one could see a cold glint flickering in his eyes. Shursong. The primal ancestor stared deeply at the spatial channel for a long while before uttering two words indifferently. 89 Book Vault. Judging from the aura left behind in the spatial channel, the primal ancestor determined that the spatial channel was opened by Shursong. Moreover, other than an ancient being like Shursong, it was impossible for a world lord like Shao Chun and the others to do so. After all, the space in the origin world was extremely sturdy. Even a world lord wouldn't be able to create a spatial channel here. After confirming that the spatial channel was created by Shursong, the primal ancestor from the Righteous Path Alliance didn't say anything else and left quickly. The spatial channel was obviously destroyed immediately. However, even though the primal ancestor didn't say anything, it wasn't hard to see that Shursong's spatial channel had undoubtedly crossed the bottom line of the primal ancestors. What kind of joke was this? He actually opened a spatial channel without anyone's knowledge. This was like someone holding your house key and entering your house without your knowledge. How could they allow others to sleep beside their beds, let alone in a place like the origin world? Shursong's actions had undoubtedly touched the bottom line of the primogenitors, and it caused the flames of anger in their hearts to rise steadily. However, because of this matter, the primal ancestors had to pay the price for their arrogance. After returning from the spatial channel, the four primal ancestors from the Righteous Path Alliance gathered together. The four of them sat in a circle. Although they looked calm, the atmosphere was somewhat oppressive. At the same time, one of the primal ancestors said in a cold voice, "It seems like we can't turn a blind eye to some things anymore. That so-called alliance, let's destroy it. And Shao Chun and Lin Yun, kill them." Obviously, the incident in the origin world had angered the primal ancestors. Therefore, they were prepared to kill Shao Chun and the others. As for Shursong and the beast slave, it wouldn't be easy for the primal ancestors to deal with them. Therefore, they could only put them aside for the time being. However, Shao Chun and Lin Yun were existences that could be easily crushed to death by the primal ancestors. Since these ants were already irritating them, they might as well just crush them to death. They could ignore them before, but now that they were angry, it was naturally different. Hearing the primal ancestor's words, another primal ancestor who was sitting with Green Ancestor stood up and smiled faintly. "I'll go. However, the Alliance should let Dark Epoch take action. We can't just let them watch the fire burn across the river." This primal ancestor volunteered to deal with Shao Chun and Lin Yun. However, he wanted to leave the matter of destroying the Alliance to Dark Epoch. Hearing this, the other three primal ancestors fell silent for a moment and then nodded. "Okay, I'll inform Dark Epoch. I'll have to trouble you to deal with those two little guys." The primogenitor smiled faintly when he heard that. Then, he disappeared from the spot after leaving behind a sentence. "Forget it. It's better to deal with some things as soon as possible. It's not good to keep dragging it out. I'll be back soon." To these primal ancestors, dealing with Shao Chun and Lin Yun was a piece of cake. Even with the protection of the beast slave, this primal ancestor was confident that he could kill these little guys. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 2791. Previously, the primogenitors had repeatedly let Xiao Chen's group off due to their arrogance and contempt. However, due to this series of events, the primogenitors' anger continued to rise. Now, the primogenitors were finally ready to take action against Xiao Chen's group. Previously, the primogenitors had repeatedly let Xiao Chen's group off due to their arrogance and contempt. However, due to this series of events, the primogenitors' anger continued to rise. Now, the primogenitors were finally ready to take action against Xiao Chen's group. A primogenitor was personally going to intercept and kill Xiao Chen's group. This was definitely not good news for Xiao Chen's group. After the primogenitor left, the spatial spirit ship that Xiao Chen's group was in continued to sail through the starry sky and rush towards the Hongmeng world. The journey was very peaceful and they didn't encounter any danger. However, this peace obviously couldn't last for too long. Another day passed and the beast slave who was leaning lazily against the cabin suddenly sat up. He looked out of the cabin and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. "They're here." They didn't know what the beast slave was talking about and Xiao Chen and Lin Yun weren't aware of it at all. However, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were instantly on guard after hearing the beast slave's words. It was impossible for a beast slave to speak without thinking. Moreover, looking at her appearance, it was obvious that she was facing a formidable enemy. This kind of expression was something that beast slaves rarely displayed. As soon as the beast slave finished speaking, the spatial spirit ship gradually came to a stop. Upon seeing this, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's expressions turned increasingly ugly. At the same time, the beast slave stood up and walked out of the cabin. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun followed closely behind. However, they still instructed Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning and the other girls, "Stay here and don't come out." The three of them arrived at the deck one after the other. Similarly, they saw a white-robed old man blocking the front of the spatial spirit boat. Looking at the white-robed old man, the beast slave's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness as he said, "Ancestor Chiu, what matter can make you personally come here?" The beast slave recognized the old man at a glance. He was one of the four great primogenitors of the Alliance of Orthodox Sections. He was also the one who had personally come to understand Xiao Chen's group. Chiu Zu's expression didn't change in the slightest as he spoke in a calm tone. "Beast slave, you have gone overboard and you have to bear the consequences." There wasn't the slightest murderous intent in his words, as though Chiu Zu wasn't there. But the beast slave's reply, Chiu Zu's words. Prideful and dignified words. "This is how you old fools faces." Twos. The beast slaves didn't have a good impression of the primogenitor, but Chiu Zu didn't mind at all. "I didn't come here to do anything to you. Beast slave, you can leave now. I won't make things difficult for you." Chiu Zu's words had undoubtedly made his intentions clear. He had come here personally, and it had nothing to do with the beast slaves. He had come here for Xiao Chen and the others. He had come to get rid of Xiao Chen and the others. The primogenitors of the origin world had reached the limit of their patience with Xiao Chen's group. Therefore, they chose to attack. Xiao Chen's and Lin Yun's expressions turned solemn. They immediately felt great pressure facing a primogenitor who had come specifically to kill them. After their previous arrogance, the primogenitors started to get serious. Their first thought was to kill Xiao Chen's group and nip the threat in the bud. The beast slave could leave. After all, she was an ancient life form. It wasn't the time for the origin world to become enemies with ancient life forms. However, the beast slave didn't hesitate to reply. "Do you think it's possible? I'm not like you guys who don't have any friendship." "Heh, do you think you can stop me? Protect them?" Chiu Zu didn't seem to make any move, but in the next second, he bypassed the beast slave and appeared in front of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was stunned by this sudden development. However, he reacted immediately. To Xiao Chen's astonishment, he felt as though he was suppressed by Chiu Zu. He couldn't even move his body. It was difficult to even move a finger. Facing Xiao Chen, whose expression had changed greatly, Chiu Zhu did not intend to continue attacking. He just smiled and said, "You see, if I want to kill someone, beast slave, can you stop me?" Chiu Zhu seemed to be doing this only to prove that if he wanted to kill someone, even if the beast slaves were here, they would not be able to do anything. They would not be able to stop or change anything. Upon hearing Chiu Zhu's words, the beast slave was instantly enraged. He threw a punch at Chiu Zhu and shouted angrily, "Old man, you're courting death." Facing the furious attack of the beast slave, Chiu Zhu's expression remained unchanged as he gently extended his right palm. The fist and palm collided, and a terrifying strength qi crazily wantonly spread out. The space also collapsed in an instant. However, for some unknown reason, the aftermath of the battle between the two was unable to spread out. The surrounding space seemed to have been confined, and it did not have the slightest effect on the spatial spirit boat. Chiu Zhu didn't move an inch after receiving the fist of the beast slave. At the same time, the fist wind of the beast slave seemed to be devoured by something and dissipated rapidly. Beast slave, you're the ancestor of the ominous beast. You have the strongest physical body and bloodline power. However, you can't cultivate spiritual power. Your strongest point is defense, not offense. Therefore, your attack is useless against me. Chiu Zhu said indifferently as if he didn't care about the attack of the beast slave. Upon hearing this, the beast slave's eyes blazed with anger as if he couldn't wait to kill the old man in front of him with one punch. Ignoring the anger in the beast slave's eyes, Chiu Zhu gently pushed his palm. The beast slave staggered and took a few steps back uncontrollably. Chiu Zhu smiled after easily stopping the beast slave's attack. "Now, do you still think the beast slave alone can save you?" These words were undoubtedly directed at Shao Chen and Lin Yun. Upon hearing this, the two's expressions became extremely solemn. Judging from the current situation, Chiu Zhu's words weren't exaggerated at all. The beast slave might be able to protect himself when facing Chiu Zhu, but he definitely couldn't protect Shao Chen and the others. Just as Chiu Zhu said, the beast slave alone couldn't stop him if he wanted to kill someone. He looked at Chiu Zhu with fear. In response, Chiu Zhu seemed to think of something and chuckled. "Oh right, there's one more thing. Where did Shi Song go?" Shi Song played an important role in helping you escape from the origin world. Why isn't he here? As he spoke, Chiu Zhu glanced indifferently at the cabin. Upon hearing Chiu Zhu mention Shi Song, Shao Chen and the others didn't reply because Shi Song was indeed not here. At present, there was only the beast slave alone. Judging from the situation, the beast slave couldn't stop Chiu Zhu. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 2792. The four of them stood on the deck and were surrounded by Shao Chen and the other two. Chiu Zhu looked very relaxed from the beginning until the end. When he saw that Shao Chen and the other two had fallen silent, Chiu Zhu smiled and said to himself. The four of them stood on the deck and were surrounded by Shao Chen and the other two. Chiu Zhu looked very relaxed from the beginning until the end. When he saw that Shao Chen and the other two had fallen silent, Chiu Zhu smiled and said to himself. It seems that Shi Song isn't here anymore. What a pity. If Shi Song was here, perhaps you would have a chance today. However, there's only the beast slave now. You don't even have a chance. If Shi Song and the beast slave join forces, perhaps they could create a chance for Shao Chen and the others to escape. At that time, it wouldn't be impossible for the two of them to join forces to entangle Chiu Zhu. However, Shi Song wasn't here now. There was only the beast slave. The beast slave couldn't even stop Chiu Zhu. Shao Chen and Lin Yun still didn't answer when they heard Chiu Zhu's words. Although the strength that Chiu Zhu had displayed was overwhelming, Chiu Zhu hadn't really made a move until now. Even so, Chiu Zhu had still easily suppressed Shao Chen and blocked the beast slave's punch. He had even successfully repelled her. This was enough to prove Qiu Zhu's strength. Seeing that Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't answer, Qiu Zhu smiled faintly and said, "What? Are you regretting it now? Do you know how foolish you were?" Qiu Zhu's words seemed to be mocking Xiao Chen and the others for overestimating themselves and thinking that they could resist the origin world with just this little strength. However, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun didn't hear any mockery from Qiu Zhu's tone at all. Instead, it sounded as if he expected better from them. Moreover, up until now, Xiao Chen also felt that something wasn't right. It was Qiu Zhu's performance. Xiao Chen didn't think that Qiu Zhu, as a primogenitor, would be so bored to talk so much nonsense to them without making a move. Logically speaking, Qiu Zhu had come here to kill Xiao Chen and the others. However, up until now, Qiu Zhu didn't seem to have any intention of making a move. If Qiu Zhu really wanted to kill them, he would have done so long ago. Why would he talk so much nonsense? Could it be that Qiu Zhu had other motives for coming here? What do you mean exactly? Speaking so much nonsense, it can't be purely to humiliate us, right? In any case, Xiao Chen didn't feel the slightest murderous intent. Moreover, Qiu Zhu's performance from the beginning to the end was very strange. Secondly, Xiao Chen and the others didn't have any power to resist Qiu Zhu. To put it bluntly, they were fish on the chopping board, lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Therefore, Xiao Chen didn't hesitate and asked bluntly. Facing Xiao Chen's question, Qiu Zhu revealed a faint smile. It was the first time Qiu Zhu had smiled. He looked at Xiao Chen and nodded with satisfaction. Quick thinking. Not bad, not bad. However, why would such a smart person do such a stupid thing? Xiao Chen could sense that something was wrong in such a short time. His thinking was indeed quick. However, Qiu Zhu teased him again. How could such a smart person have such a childish idea of rebelling against the origin world? Xiao Chen didn't answer Qiu Zhu's question. He just stared at Qiu Zhu and waited for him to continue. He didn't know the purpose of Qiu Zhu's visit. However, it seemed that Qiu Zhu didn't want to kill them. On the other side, the beast slave also realized the problem. He tried to suppress his anger and shouted, "Old man, what do you mean?" The beast slave also realized that Qiu Zhu wasn't trying to kill them. Otherwise, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun would have been dead already. Facing the beast slave's question, Qiu Zhu spoke calmly as if he was talking to himself. You think that the new world is wrong. That's why you have the idea of rebelling against the origin world. Your courage is commendable. However, it's extremely stupid. Perhaps in your eyes, such a rebellion is great. You know that it's impossible, but you still do it. It's a show of courage. However, have you ever thought that it's futile? You can't change anything in the end. Qiu Zhu's words made Xiao Chen and the others even more confused. What did he mean? However, Qiu Zhu gave them his answer shortly after. The establishment of the new world was decided by us old men. We've been preparing for many years. Our original intention was good. We didn't want to destroy this world. We wanted to benefit the common people. However, many times, it doesn't mean that things will be good even if your original intention is good. As the saying goes, good intentions can do bad things. During the process of the plan, some problems occurred. The idea of the new world was developing in an extreme direction. It wasn't my original intention, and it wasn't what I wanted to see. Hearing that, Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the beast slave were sensitive enough to know that Qiu Zhu didn't agree with the new world. Therefore, the beast slave immediately spoke up. If so, why don't you oppose it? Why are you telling us this? Qiu Zhu also did not agree with this so-called new world. Perhaps this was the reason why he did not kill Xiao Chen and the others. As he said, the ancestors may have had good intentions, but in the process of development, this so-called new world had become more and more extreme. It had even become completely unrecognizable. It was completely different from the world that the ancestors had imagined at the beginning. It was as different as heaven and earth. Facing the beast slave's question, Chiu Zhu replied indifferently, I can't betray the origin world. Chiu Zhu didn't agree with the so-called New World, but he wouldn't betray the origin world either. The idea of the New World had gained the approval of most of the primogenitors. Therefore, Chiu Zhu had no choice but to accept it. However, from the bottom of his heart, he still hoped that someone could stop all of this from happening. However, in Chiu Zhu's opinion, Shao Qian and the others' actions were too stupid. They knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, but they still went to the mountain. Having said that, Chiu Zhu looked at Shao Qian and Lin Yun. The expression in his eyes gradually became complicated. We old fellows were born together with heaven and earth. From the day we were born, we were like the masters of heaven and earth. In such a long time, we won't grow old or die. At the same time, we have the strongest power in heaven and earth. Power makes people lose themselves. Therefore, some people want to rule heaven and earth. They want to rule heaven and earth, and become the masters of heaven and earth. They want to become the masters of heaven and earth, not just the dream of all living beings. The New World was born under such distorted circumstances. Then, it went further and further away. In the end, it changed beyond recognition. I hope that someone can stand up and stop all of this. However, your actions are too naive. Begging for your collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 2793. Shao Qian, Lin Yun, and the beast slave were stunned when they heard Chiu Zhu's words. They had never imagined that the primogenitors of the origin world would oppose the New World. However, the beast slave only remained silent for a moment before he sneered and said, You make it sound so nice, but if you really don't agree, why don't you stop it? Chiu Zhu's meaning was obvious. He didn't agree with this so-called New World either. However, he didn't intend to stop it. Facing the beast slave's question, Chiu Zhu said indifferently, I told you. I won't be the enemy of the origin world. Shao Qian and the others didn't understand what the origin world meant to Chiu Zhu. Since the day they were born, Chiu Zhu and the other primogenitors had been living in the origin world. Their feelings for the origin world weren't something that ordinary people could understand. At the same time, the other primogenitors were like brothers to Chiu Zhu. Therefore, even if Chiu Zhu didn't agree, he wouldn't be enemies with the origin world or the other primogenitors. Or to put it more simply, Chiu Zhu didn't agree with the New World, but in his eyes, the living beings of the world couldn't compare to the primogenitors of the origin world. Therefore, he wouldn't stand against the primogenitors for the sake of the living beings of the world. Shao Qian finally understood Chiu Zhu's meaning. He looked at Chiu Zhu. Shao Qian suddenly said, So, you didn't come here to kill us? The purpose of Chiu Zhu's visit was to kill Shao Qian and the others, but he did not make a move for a long time. Therefore, Shao Qian was certain that Chiu Zhu had never intended to kill them from the beginning. Chiu Zhu didn't hide anything when he heard Shao Qian's question. He immediately nodded and said, I hope that you can stop it, that's all. Chiu Zhu answered Shao Qian's question. He had volunteered to help because he wanted to give Shao Qian and the others a chance to survive. Chiu Zhu knew that if it had been any other primogenitor, Shao Qian and the others wouldn't have been able to resist at all. Even the beast slaves wouldn't have been able to save them. Therefore, Chiu Zhu volunteered to come and give Shao Qian and the others a chance to survive, allowing everyone to escape a disaster. Moreover, Chiu Zhu's arrival had allowed Shao Qian and the others to know the strength of the primal ancestors. They understood that their current strength was far from enough to fight against the primal origin world. Once the primal ancestors got serious, Shao Qian and the others wouldn't be able to resist them at all. As soon as he finished speaking, the pressure that bound Shao Qian quickly dissipated, and Shao Qian could move freely. Chiu Zhu continued to speak. Your strength is still too weak. It's impossible for you to fight against the primal origin world. This time, it's me who came. However, if it's someone else next time, will you be so lucky? It's not that easy to fight against the primal origin world. Let alone the entire primal origin world. I'm afraid you guys can't even deal with one primal ancestor. Although you have the help of the beast slaves now, you still need to be strong to forge iron. You guys are still too weak. You can't fight against the primal ancestors. The addition of the ancient creatures gave Shao Chun and the others more confidence. However, it still wasn't enough. If they wanted to fight against the primal origin world, Shao Chun and the others had to constantly break through their limit. However, Shao Chun and the others had already reached the level of World Lord. They didn't know how to improve themselves. After all, the level of World Lord was the limit for ordinary people. There was no possibility for them to improve further. This was the difference in the level of life. For the ancient creatures like the beast slaves, everything was destined from the moment they were born. They were blessed by the heavens. That was why they had the strength that far surpassed the level of World Lord. As for the primal ancestors, it was needless to say. As for Shao Chun and Lin Yun, as ordinary people, they didn't have the unique advantages that the ancient creatures and the primal ancestors had. Therefore, the level of World Lord was their limit. It was like a water tank. The amount of water it could hold was predetermined from the beginning. If you kept pouring water into the tank, it would all leak out in the end because the tank was only so big and could only hold so much water. Understanding this, Shao Chun and Lin Yun felt helpless when they heard Qiu Zu's words. They naturally wanted to improve their strength, but there was no way. This wasn't something that could be solved by their own effort. Seeing what Shao Chun and Lin Yun were thinking, Qiu Zu finally said faintly, "There is a place that can satisfy your conditions. However, no one knows if it will succeed. You are already the World Lord. If you want to improve further, you can only seek a breakthrough in the level of life. You can make your life form an existence comparable to the ancient creatures. In this world, there is only one place that can achieve this step." Qiu Zu didn't keep them in suspense. Soon, he told Shao Chun and Lin Yun the method. Heaven and earth had a spirit. This heaven and earth naturally had its own consciousness. It created this world and set up the rules. The place where the spirit of heaven and earth was located was called the place of creation. Everyone thought that the origin world was the starting point of this world's birth. However, in reality, that wasn't the case. The place of creation appeared earlier than the origin world. This was the place where the spirit of heaven and earth was located. The primogenitors and primordial beings were all born in the land of creation. If Shao Chun and the others wanted to compete with the primogenitors and break through the level of World Lord, there was only one way. That was to go to the place of creation. Only that place had the method to completely change their level of life. It would allow Shao Chun and Lin Yun to have life forms that weren't weaker than the ancient creatures and the primogenitors. However, even Qiu Zu didn't know much about the place of creation because no one had ever entered it. Qiu Zu only had a rough guess as to where the entrance was. However, this was Shao Chun and Lin Yun's only chance. After telling Shao Chun and Lin Yun about the place of creation, Qiu Zu glanced at them indifferently and said, "The place of creation is your only chance. The land of creation is your only chance. Whether or not you succeed will depend on yourselves. This old man will only do this once. If we meet again, this old man will not hold back. If you can't stop all of this, then a new world will be created." Perhaps this is also a reflection of the saying, "The general trend cannot be defied." Qiu Zu came to give Shao Chun and the others one last chance. Then, without waiting for Shao Chun and Lin Yun to reply, Qiu Zu disappeared from where he stood. It was as though he had never appeared. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. Chapter 2794. In the land of creation, Shao Chen and the other two were stunned when they heard Qiu Zu's words before he left. They murmured softly to themselves. In the land of creation, Shao Chen and the other two were stunned when they heard Qiu Zu's words before he left. They murmured softly to themselves. Even Lin Yun had never heard of the land of creation, let alone Shao Chen. However, according to Qiu Zu, the land of creation should be the only place that could help everyone. Only the land of creation could allow ordinary lifeforms like Shao Chen and Lin Yun to have the possibility of breaking through to become world lord. The beast slaves, Shursong, and the other ancient lifeforms were strong because they were strong in terms of lifeforms. It could be said that they were destined to have a gap with ordinary lifeforms the moment they were born. Many ordinary lifeforms would probably only be able to reach the same height as the beast slaves in their entire lives. This was the unique advantage of the ancient lifeforms and the primogenitors. Just as Shao Chen and Lin Yun were pondering over Qiu Zu's words, Qiu Zu's voice rang in their ears again. By the way, Dark Epoch's ancestor Mu has personally gone to the primordial world. He's different from me. If you're not confident, it's best not to return to the primordial world. Qiu Zu had come to hunt down Shao Chen and the others, while ancestor Mu had gone to the primordial world to destroy Shao Chen's alliance. Shao Chen and the other two's faces turned ugly when they heard Qiu Zu's words. The primogenitors had finally made a move. Although Qiu Zu had chosen to let Shao Chen and the others off because of him, Ancestor Mu wouldn't be as easy to talk to as Qiu Zu. Ancestor Mu was now rushing to the primordial world. It was obvious that Mu Lingxian and the others wouldn't be able to stop him. When the time came, the entire alliance might be destroyed. As a result, Shao Chen and the others were now faced with a choice. Should they go or not? If they didn't go, the alliance would definitely be destroyed. However, if they went, what could Shao Chen and the others do to help? The beast slaves could indeed resist for a while. However, based on what had happened to Qiu Zu, the beast slaves still paled in comparison to the primogenitors. It would be very difficult for the beast slave to withstand the primogenitor's attack by himself. Qiu Zu had also kindly reminded him that if he wasn't confident, it would be best not to go back on his word. After all, it would be no different from committing suicide. However, Shao Chen and Lin Yun were extremely unwilling to watch Mu Lingxian, Ancestor He, and Mo He be killed by Ancestor Mu. Moreover, if the alliance was destroyed, it would mean that all the efforts that Shao Chen and the others had put in would be for naught. Without the alliance, Shao Chen and the others would have to start from scratch. Once Mu Lingxian and the others were killed, it would be even more difficult for Shao Chen and the others to rebuild the embryonic form of the alliance. Shao Chen and Lin Yun looked at each other. They saw a trace of seriousness and hesitation in each other's eyes. In the end, Lin Yun asked, "What do you think? Are we going or not?" Since they knew that Mu Lingxian and the others were in danger, Shao Chen and Lin Yun's choice was crucial. Moreover, Ancestor Mu was probably on his way to the Hongmeng world. It was definitely too late to ask Mu Lingxian and the others to evacuate. After all, the Hongmeng world was where the alliance was located. There were many people inside, and it was impossible to evacuate them in a short period of time. Therefore, Shao Chen and Lin Yun only had two choices. They could either drag out an ignoble existence and avoid going to the Hongmeng world. The other was to rush to the Hongmeng world with Mu Lingxian and the others in hopes that they could stop Ancestor Mu. Imperial study. Upon hearing Lin Yun's question, Shao Chen did not hesitate and immediately said, "Let's go. We can't leave them behind." The alliance was Shao Chen's source of confidence. He could not lose it so easily. Moreover, Shao Chen had his own thoughts. The primogenitors of the origin world had chosen to attack Shao Chen and the others for the first time. Moreover, they had only sent Ancestor Mu alone. If Ancestor Mu could not stop them alone, how could they fight against the origin world? If they couldn't even resist the attack of one primordial ancestor, Then when the other primordial ancestors of the origin world got serious, Shao Chun and the others wouldn't even have the ability to resist. How could they stop the establishment of the new world? Therefore, they could not escape this time. They had to stop Ancestor Mu. Only then would they have hope in the future. Knowing Shao Chen's thoughts, Lin Yun nodded without hesitation. At the same time, she agreed with Shao Chen's choice. I hope Senior Shi Song can gain something, she muttered softly. Now, the only thing Shao Chen and the others could rely on other than the beast slaves was Shi Song. Shi Song had gone to rope in other ancient creatures. If Shi Song could gain something from his side, then everything could still be turned around. However, if even Shi Song could not do anything, then they could only fight to the death. After the decision was made, the beast slave didn't express any opinion from beginning to end. Only after Shao Chun and Lin Yun made their decision did the beast slave open his mouth and say, "Then let's go. Man disposes, God disposes. Everything has to be gambled on." Then, everyone drove the spatial spirit ship. They did not change their direction but rushed to the primordial world. Seeing Shao Chen, Lin Yun, and the beast slave return safely, Lu Bingning and Qin Shuru were secretly relieved. The spatial spirit ship flew quickly in the starry sky. Even if a primogenitor attacked, it would be difficult to kill an ancient life form. However, Ancestor Mu was determined to kill the beast slave. Therefore, the aura on his body continued to rise. Obviously, he didn't hold back at all. Naturally, Ancestor Mu couldn't kill an ancient life form as easily as before. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." With a low growl, Ancestor Mu took the lead to attack the beast slave. His attacks became fiercer and his power was much stronger than before. In the face of Ancestor Mu's attack, the beast slave that had returned to its original form was also much stronger. For a moment they were actually evenly matched. This was the only ancient life form in the world that could threaten the primogenitors. Its strength was indeed not to be underestimated. However, even though the beast slave was evenly matched with Ancestor Mu, it obviously wouldn't be able to last long in such a state. Ancestor Mu was clearly aware of this. Therefore, even though he was evenly matched with the beast slave, Ancestor Mu wasn't anxious at all. Now wasn't the time to kill the beast slave. When the beast slave was exhausted, it would be the time to kill him. He calmly fought the beast slave fiercely, constantly exhausting the beast slave's power of blood chi. In the battle between the primogenitor and the ancient life form, every collision between the two seemed like it was going to destroy the world. Just watching from afar was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Moreover, ordinary people wouldn't be able to participate in a battle of this level. Please collect, vote, recommend. Since they couldn't defeat him, the final outcome wouldn't change much. It would only delay some time. Even though they knew the outcome, Lin Yun and the rest couldn't do anything because they had already tried their best. However, it was almost impossible to defeat Ancestor Mu unless another ancient life form joined forces with the beast slave. Only then would it be possible to defeat Ancestor Mu. However, they didn't know where Sure Song was now, so Lin Yun and the rest didn't dare to hold too much hope for him to come. Do you think this can change the outcome? Wishful thinking. Ancestor Mu clearly knew this, so after his initial anger, he quickly calmed down. As long as he held on, it was only a matter of time before the Beast Slave and Lin Yun were defeated. At that time, he could defeat the Beast Slave and kill everyone one by one. Ancestor Mu knew very well that he still had the advantage. However, just as Ancestor Mu finished speaking and Lin Yun and the rest didn't have a better idea, two terrifying auras came from the spatial tunnel. Then, Sure Song and a handsome young man appeared before everyone. Sure Song's appearance put the Beast Slave in a good mood. He couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. Perhaps he couldn't do anything to Ancestor Mu before, but everything changed with Sure Song's arrival. No matter how strong Ancestor Mu was, it was impossible for him to fight two ancient life forms and remain undefeated. Request collection, request monthly votes, request recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 2800. Everyone rejoiced with Sure Song's appearance. However, Mu Zu's face became extremely ugly. Clearly, he knew very well what Sure Song's arrival meant. Everyone rejoiced with Sure Song's appearance. However, Mu Zu's face became extremely ugly. Clearly, he knew very well what Sure Song's arrival meant. Originally, he was confident that he could kill the Beast Slave and Xiao Qin, but Sure Song's arrival made it impossible. As a primogenitor, although Ancestor Mu was arrogant, he was definitely not an idiot. He knew very well that no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to deal with two ancient lifeforms at the same time. Moreover, to Sure Song's surprise, Sure Song was not the only one who had come. The young man by Sure Song's side was also an ancient life form called Mu Ling. He didn't expect Sure Song to bring him along. Looking at Sure Song and Mu Ling, Ancestor Mu's expression turned cold. On the other hand, the Beast Slave said unhappily, "If you didn't come, I would have had to take care of you. With your body, even Ancestor Mu can't casually kill you. Aren't I fine now?" Sure Song replied nonchalantly. The Beast Slave did not have a good time when he fought with Ancestor Mu. After all, he had to fight a primogenitor by himself. Even for the Beast Slave, it was extremely stressful. However, now that Sure Song and Mu Ling had arrived, all the pressure was on Ancestor Mu's side. Regardless of whether they could kill him, they could definitely defeat Ancestor Mu. It could even be said that if Ancestor Mu wanted to fight to the death, with the help of the three ancient lifeforms, there was a chance that they could kill Ancestor Mu. The tables had turned in an instant, especially when Sure Song brought Mu Ling. It was simply a pleasant surprise that made everyone feel great. Even Lin Yun, Mo He, and the others heaved a sigh of relief. "I didn't expect you to be able to find little Mu Zi. You're really something." As an ancient life form, the Beast Slave obviously knew Mu Ling and seemed to have a good relationship with him. He immediately teased Mu Ling from the beginning. In the face of the Beast Slave's ridicule, the Wood Spirit said helplessly, "Looks like we came early. We should let Ancestor Mu teach you a lesson." The Wood Spirit had some understanding of the Beast Slave's character, so he didn't mind. Upon hearing his words, the Beast Slave curled his lips and didn't say anything else. While they were talking, Sure Song and Mu Ling came to the Beast Slave's side. When the two of them appeared, Ancestor Mu had already stopped attacking. Looking at the Beast Slave, Sure Song, and Mu Ling standing side by side, the coldness in Ancestor Mu's eyes was extremely dense. "Wood Spirit, even you want to get involved in this matter and go against the origin world?" Sure Song and the Beast Slave had already joined Xiao Chen's alliance. Ancestor Mu knew this, but the appearance of the Wood Spirit was something he hadn't expected. At the same time, the anger in his heart grew stronger. Sure enough, these ancient lifeforms were a huge threat to the origin world. Once the matter of the new world was over, He had to annihilate these ancient life forms. He wouldn't hesitate to pay a heavy price. In Ancestor Mu's opinion, the origin world had turned a blind eye to ancient life forms like the beast slaves because it was afraid that both sides would suffer heavy losses. But now, the threat of these ancient life forms had been completely exposed. Moreover, they were actually acting recklessly against the origin world. This was completely unforgivable. Previously, for the sake of the overall situation, the origin world could tolerate these ancient life forms. As long as they didn't do anything out of line, the primogenitors of the origin world could indeed turn a blind eye to them. However, it was different now. They had jumped out one by one to go against the origin world. This was intolerable. Moreover, after experiencing this incident, the primogenitors were fully aware of the threat of these ancient life forms. In order to maintain the rule of the origin world, these ancient life forms had to be eliminated. However, this was obviously a matter for the future. At least for now, Ancestor Mu didn't have the slightest chance of winning, let alone killing the beast slave and the other two. It was fate, right? Sure Song and the wood spirit didn't mind Ancestor Mu's cold gaze at all. Especially the wood spirit. He only smiled faintly after hearing Ancestor Mu's words. Your origin world has indeed gone overboard with the matter of the new world. Give up on the idea of the new world and I'll leave now. How about it? The reason why the wood spirit had followed Sure Song here was also because of the new world. The wood spirit wasn't interested in the new world that the origin world had predicted. He even hated it. That was why he had come here to stop it from happening. Ancestor Mu's eyes flashed with killing intent when he heard the wood spirit's words. He said coldly, "Are you threatening me?" "It's not a threat. People who walk different paths can't make plans together. I just want to stop something from happening," the wood spirit said indifferently. The wood spirit's attitude was extremely indifferent. The more indifferent it was, the more Ancestor Mu couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. Since when had he been threatened by an ancient life form? Even an ancient life form couldn't threaten the progenitor. However, the wood spirit was threatening him right in front of his face. Compared to the wood spirit, the beast slave was more direct. He had been suppressing his anger because of the battle just now. At this moment, he shouted at Ancestor Mu mercilessly. "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Old thing, are you still going to fight or not? I hope you continue to fight because that way, the three of us can join forces to kill you here." Kill him. This was probably the first time Ancestor Mu had heard such words. Since the day he was born, when had anyone dared to say that they could kill him? However, the beast slave just had to say such words right in front of him. The beast slave really hoped that Ancestor Mu would fight and not retreat because that way, the three of them would have a chance to kill Ancestor Mu again. Otherwise, if the old thing wanted to leave, the beast slave and the other two might not be able to stop him. After all, Ancestor Mu had a lot of tricks up his sleeves, and it was impossible for him not to have any life-saving trump cards. If Ancestor Mu wanted to leave, it would be difficult for the three ancient life forms to stop him even if they joined forces. As long as Ancestor Mu didn't retreat, the beast slave and the other two would exhaust him continuously. Only then would they have a chance to kill him. It could be considered as a provocation. However, it was obvious that Ancestor Mu wasn't a hothead. After hearing the beast slave's words, even though Ancestor Mu's anger was about to burst out, he still maintained his calm and spoke while gritting his teeth. "Beast slave, very well. But don't worry, one day I will definitely kill you with my own hands. Besides, do you really think that the three of you can change anything? It won't be this simple next time." After that, Ancestor Mu didn't wait for the beast slave and the other two to respond. He vanished on the spot as though he had chosen to retreat for the time being. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 28:01. In the end, Ancestor Mu chose to retreat. After all, even Ancestor Mu would find it difficult to contend against three ancient life forms. Temporarily retreating was the best choice. Otherwise, it would be like what the beast slave had said. He would give them a chance to kill him. In the end, Ancestor Mu chose to retreat. After all, even Ancestor Mu would find it difficult to contend against three ancient life forms. Temporarily retreating was the best choice. Otherwise, it would be like what the beast slave had said. He would give them a chance to kill him. If the three ancient life forms joined forces, they would indeed have a chance to kill a primogenitor. The beast slave and the other two didn't stop Ancestor Mu and allowed him to leave. After all, if Ancestor Mu wanted to leave, the three of them wouldn't be able to stop him. Moreover, now wasn't the time to consider such things. After the previous battle, Lin Yun, Mo He, and the others were heavily injured, not to mention Xiao Chen, who was unconscious. Soon, they returned to the Immortal Palace. This place had become the Alliance's headquarters. The aftermath would naturally be handled by the subordinates. Facing the beast slave, Shi Song, and Wood Spirit, Mo He, Ancestor He, Mu Lingxian, and the other world masters were very respectful. After all, they were indeed powerful and could be said to be the Alliance's trump card. They were also the only existences that could contend against the primogenitors. They respectfully invited the three to the Immortal Palace. Before long, Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, Dongfang Yun, and Mo He's family arrived in the primordial world. This allowed Dongfang Yun and Mo He to breathe a sigh of relief. However, after learning that Xiao Chen was heavily injured and unconscious, Qin Shuru and the others were still worried. Fortunately, with Wood Spirit's help, Xiao Chen's injuries were completely stabilized. In the future, as long as he recovered for a period of time, there wouldn't be any major problems. As an ancient life form, Wood Spirit had personally treated Xiao Chen. Clearly, there was nothing to worry about. However, even though Xiao Chen was fine, no one dared to lower their guard in the slightest. After this incident, the Alliance and the Origin World would definitely become enemies. Next time, the Origin World wouldn't just send Ancestor Mu alone. The other primogenitors would probably show up in person. At that time, would the three of them be able to withstand the attacks of several primal ancestors? Everyone knew the answer. Although the three beastmen were strong, it would be difficult for them to win against the primal ancestors. In a one-on-one fight, the three beastmen would have a hard time defeating a primal ancestor. It would be difficult for them to even hold their own against a primal ancestor. So, they weren't happy at all because they'd repelled Ancestor Mu because it didn't mean anything. On the contrary, it would only infuriate the Origin World even more. They had to increase their guard, especially around the primordial world. As long as someone from the Origin World appeared, they had to know immediately. After being unconscious for an entire day, Xiao Chen slowly woke up. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the other women guarding him. Xiao Chen smiled. Facing their worried gazes, Xiao Chen smiled to show that he was fine. With Wood Spirit's treatment, Xiao Chen's injuries recovered quickly. After all, how could an ordinary person compare to the methods of an ancient life form? After learning that he had fainted, Shi Song and Wood Spirit rushed over while Ancestor Mu took the initiative to retreat. Xiao Chen didn't say anything. The result was perfect, but he still couldn't let his guard down. After Xiao Chen woke up, Qin Shuru, 100-Flower Fairy, and the other women heaved a sigh of relief. But soon, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Mauve, and the others took the initiative to come to him because they still needed to discuss a very important matter. That was, how to deal with the counterattack of the Origin World. Brother Xiao Chen, you already know the situation. I'm afraid that the Origin World won't look down on us anymore. I guess we'll have to confront the Origin World head-on. They explained the situation to Xiao Chen. In fact, even if Lin Yun and the others didn't say it, Xiao Chen could guess it himself. With the prideful characters of the Origin World ancestors, it was impossible for them to not do anything after suffering such a big loss. In other words, the origin world ancestors probably couldn't wait to get rid of them as soon as possible. Therefore, it was really time for them to confront the origin world head-on. Currently, the only thing Shao Chun and the others could rely on was Sure Song, Beast Slave, and Wood Spirit, the three ancient life forms. Of course, Sure Song and Wood Spirit were still trying to rope in the other ancient life forms. Unfortunately, they hadn't received any response up until now. Of course, the other ancient life forms didn't refuse, but they seemed to be thinking about it. The situation wasn't very optimistic, especially the origin world. It was like a huge mountain that was pressing down on everyone's heads. Previously, only one origin world ancestor had attacked, but it had almost forced everyone to the point of no return. Now, if more origin world ancestors attacked together, how could they resist? To put it bluntly, it was still a difference in strength. However, strength couldn't be improved overnight. Especially for world lords like Shao Chun, it was almost impossible for them to improve their strength unless they could find the land of creation. It was the land of creation that Qiu Zhu mentioned. Only that place could allow Shao Chun and the other world lords to improve their strength. However, the land of creation was very mysterious. Even the beast slaves and Qiu Zhu didn't know where the entrance to the land of creation was. It could be said that it was very difficult for everyone to enter the land of creation, let alone other things. However, they didn't have any other better methods. Only the land of creation could give them a chance of survival. After telling Mo he and the others about the land of creation, they all frowned when they heard what Shao Chun said. It was their only chance at the moment, but it was also extremely difficult. Seeing that everyone was frowning, Shao Chun said in a low voice, "Everyone, actually, we didn't have a way out from the beginning. Everything that's happening now is already within our expectations. From the moment we formed the alliance, it was inevitable that we would become the enemy of the origin world. Thus, things have developed as we expected. If we want to resist the origin world, the only way is to go to the place of creation. Thus, I suggest that the alliance should disperse to hide while we search for the place of creation. Only by entering the place of creation can we have a chance to resist the origin world." The current situation wasn't unexpected. It could even be said that they had expected it. However, foreseeing it was one thing. When they really had to face the origin world head-on, they couldn't let go of the fear in their hearts. After all, the oppression of the origin world had already been deeply rooted in their hearts. It was indeed difficult for them to turn the situation around. Please add it to your collection, monthly vote, recommend it. End of chapter. Chapter 2802. No matter how difficult it was, Shao Chun and the other world lords had to find a way to enter the land of creation and search for that one and only chance. For this reason, Shao Chun didn't hesitate to suggest that everyone in the alliance should temporarily disperse and hide. That way, even the primogenitors of the origin world wouldn't be able to find them in the many universes. No matter how difficult it was, Shao Chun and the other world lords had to find a way to enter the land of creation and search for that one and only chance. For this reason, Shao Chun didn't hesitate to suggest that everyone in the alliance should temporarily disperse and hide. That way, even the primogenitors of the origin world wouldn't be able to find them in the many universes. After hearing Shao Chun's suggestion, Lin Yun, Mauve, Mu Lingxian, and the other world lords fell silent. No one refuted Shao Chun's suggestion because Shao Chun's suggestion was indeed the only feasible method. However, there were many unknowns in it. It could be said that whether it was entering the land of creation or temporarily dispersing the alliance, it was filled with many uncertainties. No one knew what the outcome would be. However, while everyone was silent, Sure Song, Mu Ling, and Beast Slave walked in. Sure Song nodded and said, "Shao Chun's suggestion is the only method we have right now." As they spoke, the three of them arrived in front of everyone. Song continued, "Based on the current situation, the Origin world's counterattack is inevitable. However, with our current strength, it's almost impossible for us to stop the Origin world. Even if the three of us join forces, we can only stop 3 primogenitors at most. Moreover, we don't have any chance of winning. However, there are more than 3 primogenitors in the Origin world. Song and the other 2 world lords could resist for a while if it was a one-on-one battle. However, it was impossible for them to win. However, if the number of primogenitors outnumbered them, it would be even more impossible for them to win. Therefore, the wisest choice at the moment was to avoid the brunt of the attack, which was the solution that Shao Chun had mentioned earlier. Everyone nodded slightly when they heard Song's suggestion. However, someone still said, "You're right. However, no one knows where the land of creation is. Even if we want to, we're powerless." They didn't even know how to enter the land of creation. Therefore, even if they wanted to, they were powerless. However, after hearing his words, the wood spirit smiled and said, "I know someone who might be able to help us. He definitely knows the entrance to the land of creation." "You're not thinking of looking for that old fellow, are you?" Hearing this, the beast slave immediately guessed who the wood spirit was talking about and asked with some surprise. Mu Ling didn't hide it. Mu Ling's words, and the primogenitor of the land of creation was creation. Is there a problem with that person? There isn't a problem, but... how should I put it? Anyway, that guy has a strange personality. I don't want to have too much contact with him. The primogenitor replied. After Shao Chen's questioning and the beast slave's explanation, everyone finally knew who the person that Mu Ling was talking about was. He was also an ancient life form. However, compared to other ancient life forms, he was an extremely strange existence. It wasn't accurate to say that he was an ancient life form. However, it wasn't accurate to say that he wasn't either. Nuwa Library simply put, that guy was the consciousness of space, which was the origin energy that controlled space. That's right, they were formed from origin force. In the world, there were 2 most powerful forces, time and space. The origin force of these 2 forces was clearly much more powerful than the other origin forces. As a result, the 2 origin forces of time and space had developed their own consciousness and could even take form. Normally, they were no different from ordinary life forms. However, they weren't true life forms after all, so it was reasonable to say that they weren't ancient life forms. However, the 2 origins were very powerful and weren't weaker than ancient life forms at all. At the same time, because everyone had existed for a very long time, it was inevitable that they would come into contact with each other. As time passed, there was a high probability that the time origin and space origin would be classified as ancient life forms. After hearing the primogenitor's explanation, Shao Chen and the rest were enlightened. Since the primogenitor of space was an existence that controlled the power of space, he must have some understanding of the method to enter the land of creation. Therefore, Mu Ling said that he could definitely help. However, the primogenitor had a headache just thinking about asking that guy for help. That guy was definitely a difficult existence to deal with. However, there was no other way at the moment. Besides looking for the primogenitor of space, who else could know the location of the entrance to the land of creation? The primogenitor wasn't good at thinking about these things. Therefore, after explaining the matter of the primogenitor of space, the primogenitor said unhappily, "Forget it. I don't care about these things anymore. You guys can do as you see fit." The primogenitor of space was like this. If you asked her to charge into battle, she would absolutely have nothing to say. However, if you asked her to give advice, then it would really be too much. Therefore, Shao Chun could only smile bitterly in response to the primogenitor's reaction. Then, he looked at the primogenitor and said, "Senior, are you confident that he can help us?" As long as we can find him, then it's in the bag. Now, the most crucial problem is how to find that guy. After all, that guy is the most difficult existence to find. Even if the origin world takes action, it's still very difficult to find his exact whereabouts unless he's willing to give himself up. The primogenitor smiled bitterly. As the primogenitor of space, she was born with the ability to disregard the obstruction of space and travel through any place at her will. Therefore, it wasn't easy to find that guy. Xiao Chen nodded when he heard that. However, the primogenitor spoke very quickly. You can't help us with these things for the time being. Leave it to us. You guys should deal with the matters of the Alliance first. Once we find that guy, we'll set off immediately. It was naturally difficult for Xiao Chen and the others to interfere with the search for the primogenitor of space. After all, it was the first time they had heard of the existence of the primogenitor of space. It was simply unrealistic for Xiao Chen and the others to find the primogenitor of space by themselves. Therefore, the primogenitor of space directly took over this matter. After all, compared to Xiao Chen's group, it was clearly more convenient for the primogenitor of space to act. As for Xiao Chen's group, they were mainly dealing with the matters of the Alliance. It wasn't an easy task to break up the Alliance and disperse it to various places. Moreover, the primogenitor of space wasn't in the mood to interfere with this matter. Therefore, it was better for them to divide the work among themselves. This way, the efficiency would be higher. Begging to be collected, begging to be recommended. Chapter 2803. The task of searching for the space origin was given to Mu Ling, Shi Song, and the other two. After all, they were ancient creatures and had a lot of contact with the space origin. Moreover, they had more means. It would be more convenient for them to search for the space origin. As for the Alliance, it was naturally left to Xiao Chen and the other world lords. After hearing Mu Ling's words, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun looked at each other. Then, Lin Yun asked, "Does anyone have any objections to Senior Mu Ling's suggestion?" After all, it was an alliance. Therefore, many things needed to be discussed and resolved. After hearing Lin Yun's words, the other world lords nodded in agreement. "I agree. I agree too. No problem." Since everyone agreed, the matter was naturally settled. Mu Ling and Shi Song didn't waste any time. After giving a few instructions, they left directly. It was still unknown when the origin world's counterattack would arrive. However, it shouldn't be too long. Therefore, Xiao Chen and the others had to hurry up. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if the origin world's ancestors arrived and they still hadn't settled the matter. Time was of the essence, and they had to make every second count. Xiao Chen and the others clearly understood this, so after Shi Song, Mu Ling, and the others left, Lin Yun immediately suggested, "Everyone, time is tight. Why don't we take each universe as a boundary and handle the matters of each universe separately? We should try our best to disperse the people and let them hide in each universe. This way we can save time." The meaning of Lin Yun's suggestion was very simple. It was for the world lords to handle their own matters and clean up the snow in front of their own door. This was indeed the most convenient and fast method. After all, they were obviously more familiar with the people under their command. It would be more convenient to deal with them. They didn't need to arrange everything in the name of the Alliance. That would be troublesome. As for the future, it wouldn't be troublesome to wait for the world lords to come out of the land of creation and then gather everyone together. Lin Yun's suggestion was quickly approved by the various world lords. However, there was still someone who was concerned about Xiao Chen and asked, "Brother Xiao Chen, your body is in such a state. Do you need our help?" Xiao Chen had not recovered from his injuries and was still very weak. Therefore, everyone was concerned about him. In response, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "It's nothing. It's just a small injury. It's nothing." "That's good, but if you need anything, just let me know." Now that everyone was on the same boat, no matter what grudges they had before, it was no longer important. Helping each other was the most basic thing. From the attitude of Shao Chun and the other world lords, it was obvious that there was no problem within the alliance. After all, everyone had the same goal at the moment, and they all felt the same sense of threat, so naturally, they were tightly huddled together. Humans were like that. They could share trials and tribulations, but it was very difficult for them to share blessings. In the face of danger, people would instinctively gather together, and once the danger was gone, there would often be many unnecessary conflicts. After settling the matter, Lin Yun and the others quickly left. They had to make the best use of their time to deal with the remaining matters. Shao Chun did not stay idle either. He said to Qing Yao and Qing Luo, "Go and invite Big Brother and Second Sister here." He ordered someone to invite Xianyuan Ling and Long Qing. At this moment, Shao Qin also saw Qin Shuru and Fairy Baihua staring at him. Before the girls could speak, Shao Chen already knew what they wanted to say, so he said with a helpless smile, "Everyone, you guys also want to go to the land of creation? Husband, you promised us that you wouldn't leave us behind again," Gu Lingyao immediately replied. He had indeed promised this, but Shao Chen still said helplessly, "Then what about Yao Luer and Luan Luan? If he and Qin Shuru went to the land of creation, what would happen to Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, Xiao Luan, and the others?" This was a problem. However, Gu Lingyao was a little unhappy about this, so Fairy Baihua explained. "We can let father and mother take care of them for the time being, as well as Qin Yao, Qing Luo, and the people from the sacred palace. There shouldn't be a problem. Furthermore, based on the current situation, it's probably more dangerous for the children to follow us." Fairy Baihua's consideration was thorough. Shao Qing, Bai Ryue, Qin Yao, and the others would indeed have no problem taking care of the children, not to mention the people from the sacred palace. Furthermore, compared to following Shao Qing and Bai Ryue, it was more dangerous for the children to follow her. It was obvious that Shao Chen, Qin Shuru, and the others had probably become the top targets of the origin world. The children would only be safe if they stayed away from her. Apparently, Fairy of 100 Flowers had already thought of this, and Shao Chen did not insist on it. Instead, he simply nodded and agreed. Since the girls wanted to go to the place of creation with him, then so be it. Of course, apart from the girls, Xianyuan Ling and Long Qing would definitely go with them. It didn't take long for Xianyuan Ling and Long Qing to rush over and explain the situation in detail. In the end, Shao Chen said, "Big Brother, I'll leave the matter of the sacred palace to you. Remember, you must split everyone up. That's the only way to avoid the origin world's search." They couldn't move as a group, because that would make them too big of a target and it would be easy for the origin world to find them. Chapter 2804. Shao Chen's determination was evident from the fact that he had even given up on the sacred palace's headquarters. However, Long Qing, Qin Shuru and the other women felt that it was a pity. "Husband, little brother, the sacred palace is our root. Isn't it a pity to give it up just like that?" Shao Chen's determination was evident from the fact that he had even given up on the sacred palace's headquarters. However, Long Qing, Qin Shuru and the other women felt that it was a pity. "Husband, little brother, the sacred palace is our root. Isn't it a pity to give it up just like that? We don't have a choice. At this juncture, we'll only pay a heavier price if we don't give it up. If we leave people behind to guard the sacred palace, not only will the sacred palace be destroyed, but those people will also be killed." Shao Chen knew very well that the sacred palace would not be able to be defended. Therefore, Shao Chen had no intention of continuing to protect the sacred palace from the very beginning. Now, Shao Chen could only ensure the survival of the sacred palace's people. This was already the limit. As for the foundation, the palace, the cultivation mystic realms, and other things, they could no longer be kept. Compared to their lives, what was more important? The sacred palace could be rebuilt if it was destroyed, but if people died, it would be completely over. Desperate times call for desperate measures. If you still can't bear to part with this and that, you'll only end up empty-handed in the end. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, the women did not say anything else. They also knew what Xiao Chen meant. However, they could not help but sigh in their hearts when it came to the sacred palace. Unfortunately, they could not change anything. After giving instructions, Xiao Chen said to Xianyuan Ling, "Big brother, I'll leave this matter to you. Remember, you must be quick. We don't have much time." "Don't worry, I'll do it now." Xianyuan Ling nodded heavily. Now it was a race against time. Every second was very important. Xiao Chen understood, and so did Xianyuan Ling. Now that Xiao Chen was injured, there were many things that he could not do himself, so this heavy burden could only be handed over to Xianyuan Ling. Without wasting any time, Xianyuan Ling immediately left and began to deal with these matters. Xiao Chen had given Xianyuan Ling 3 days. Within 3 days, he had to deal with these matters and get everyone from the sacred palace to leave the primordial world or the great thousand world and hide in other universes. Furthermore, for the sake of safety, Xiao Chen had specially instructed Xianyuan Ling not to reveal everyone's location. In other words, no one knew where the others were or which universe they had gone to. This was also to prevent someone from leaking the location of the others after being captured. Only Xianyuan Ling and Xiao Chen knew which universe the people of the Holy Palace had gone to and where they were hiding. No one else knew. While Xiao Chen's side began to move, Lin Yun and the other world masters did not remain idle and also began to evacuate. Moreover, the people in the various universes had no contact with each other, so they did not know each other's location. It could be said that the confidentiality work was done to the extreme. This way, even if someone was captured by the origin world, it would be impossible for them to reveal the location of the others. Everyone's safety was protected to the greatest extent. Following the actions of the various world masters, the entire primordial world fell into complete chaos. Starships began to rapidly leave the primordial world and disappear into the endless starry sky. At this moment, standing outside the black hole of the primordial world, one could see starships leaving the primordial world one after another. Xiao Chen and the others had already reacted as soon as possible. On the other side, Ancestor Mu, who had been defeated in the primordial world, returned to the origin world in anger 2 days later and immediately hurriedly discussed matters with the other primogenitors. I love Chinese. The location was set in the middle of the Righteous Path Alliance and the Dark Epoch. In a simple and unadorned hall, Ancestor Mu, Qing Zhu, Ancestor Qiu, and the other primogenitors of the Righteous Path Alliance and the Dark Epoch were all present. Everyone sat in a circle and Ancestor Mu said with a cold expression, "The ancient era creatures are too powerful to be eliminated. They have always been a threat to our origin world. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to eliminate all the ancient era creatures in one fell swoop to prevent future troubles." This trip to the primordial world had filled Ancestor Mu with a belly full of anger. Not only had he failed to destroy Xiao Chen's alliance, but he had also been threatened by the beast slave and had been forced to retreat in the end. This was the first time Ancestor Mu had encountered such a situation in his life. Hearing Ancestor Mu's words, the other primogenitors also knew what had happened in the primordial world. They knew that Ancestor Mu had been forced to retreat by Song, Mu Ling, and the beast slave together. Their hearts were burning with anger. Although Ancestor Mu's words were filled with anger and self-consciousness, it was undeniable that the ancient era creatures did pose a threat to the origin world. Especially this time, the ancient era creatures had indeed challenged the origin world's bottom line. However, it was too presumptuous to think that they could destroy the ancient creatures just because of that. Moreover, the ancient creatures couldn't be destroyed so easily. Although the origin world was strong, the alliance of all the ancient creatures was enough to give the origin world a headache. Because of this, Ancestor Chio said indifferently after hearing Ancestor Mu's words, "It doesn't look like you want to eliminate the ancient era creatures so easily. Ancestor Mu, you should calm down." Ancestor Chio tried to persuade Ancestor Mu to calm down, but Ancestor Mu sneered and said, "Humph, don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. I'm very calm now. But are you really from the origin world? Why didn't you kill Shao Chun and the others last time? Don't forget that our origin world was originally one." Ancestor Mu's anger grew when he heard Ancestor Chio's words. In his opinion, Ancestor Chio was to blame for this matter because he hadn't killed Shao Chun and the others, nor had he killed the beast slave. If Ancestor Chio had killed the beast slave, he wouldn't have been defeated and left. Even if he had faced the two ancient era creatures, Shi Song and Mu Ling, he wouldn't have been in such a sorry state. At least, he wouldn't have run away without a fight. Ancestor Chio didn't agree with the establishment of the new world. The other primogenitors already knew this from the beginning. In the end, because most of the primogenitors agreed, Ancestor Chio had no choice but to obey. After all, as he said, he couldn't betray the origin world under any circumstances. Even so, Ancestor Chio's face turned ugly when he was scolded by Ancestor Mu. He snorted coldly. "Humph, you're not strong enough, but you're blaming others. What a joke." "What did you say?" "I said you're not strong enough. You're not a match for them. How can you have the face to blame others now?" Ancestor Chio didn't give Ancestor Mu any face at all. Ancestor Mu stood up angrily and glared at Ancestor Chio. He seemed as if he would attack at any moment. "Please add me to your collection. Please recommend me." Chapter 2805. Ancestor Mu and Ancestor Chio didn't back down. Seeing that they were about to fight, Ancestor Qing and the other dark epoch progenitor spoke up. Ancestor Mu and Ancestor Chio didn't back down. Seeing that they were about to fight, Ancestor Qing and the other dark epoch progenitor spoke up as well. "Alright, both of you, calm down. What's the point of arguing like this?" Ancestor Mu was infuriated by Beast Slave and the other ancient creatures, while Ancestor Chio held a grudge against him because he didn't attack Shao Qin and the others. Even so, their argument was completely meaningless. The matter of the ancient creatures was indeed a little troublesome, and Ancestor Mu's anger wasn't unreasonable. Therefore, their argument wouldn't solve anything. After Ancestor Qing and the other progenitor stepped forward to dissuade them, the other progenitor from the Righteous Path Alliance said, "Ancestor Chio, we know what you're thinking. However, the matter of the ancient creatures is a huge threat to the origin world. Therefore, now is not the time for you to hesitate." Chiozhu didn't agree with the creation of the new world. However, the threat of the ancient creatures to the origin world did exist. Therefore, Chiozhu shouldn't have any thoughts of harming the origin world at this moment. Chiozhu nodded faintly and said, "I've already said that I won't betray the origin world no matter what. My words are still valid." Letting Shao Chun and Lin Yun off last time was the only thing Chiozhu could do. If they met again in the future, even Chiozhu couldn't remain indifferent. After hearing Chiozhu's words, everyone stopped arguing about this matter. Although Mu Zhu was still furious, he did not say anything else. After a cold snort, he returned to his seat. After a short argument, the progenitors calmed down. Then, one of the Righteous Path Alliance's progenitors spoke up. "Let's deal with the so-called alliance first. Since Beast Slave, Shi Song, and Mu Ling are determined to go against the origin world, we'll destroy them together. Ancestor Qing, you'll come with me to the Hong Meng world and the Dark Epoch Alliance." Send 2 progenitors with us. I don't believe Beast Slave and the others can overturn the situation. Since Ancestor Mu had suffered a great loss when he went to the primordial world alone last time, the origin world would send 4 primal ancestors this time. They wanted to see what the Beast Slaves could do this time. Ancestor Mu, of course, volunteered to go to the Hongmeng world. Ancestor Mu hadn't forgotten about the humiliation last time. This time, he would go to the Hongmeng world and make them pay a heavy price. He would even kill them to kill the 3 to kill 2s to kill them to pay a heavy price. To go to the Hongmeng world. And thus, the 4-foot-s going to the Hong to go 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 to Hong to go to the Hong to go. So. And that s want. Of course, other than the 4 progenitors, the rest of the origin world's experts also went with them. This time, the attack on the Hongmeng world wasn't the same as before. Obviously, the origin world was serious. They had thrown away their underestimation and carelessness. They wanted to deal a devastating blow to Shao Chen and the others. No one had ever been able to stop what the origin world wanted to do, including the Ancient Era's creatures. This time, the Ancient Era's creatures had stepped forward to stop the origin world. This made the progenitors of the origin world feel a chill in their hearts. After the matter was settled, everyone dispersed and prepared to leave. Before Ancestor Qing left, he went to find Xiao Zhu. Looking at Xiao Zhu's indifferent face, Ancestor Qing said helplessly, "Temple Street, I know you're not happy about the new world, but no matter what, you're still a member of the origin world. You have to understand this. I said I won't betray the origin world. I know that. However, the new world is the general trend. You can't stop it. If so, why don't you choose to accept it? For all living beings in this world, us old guys are existences akin to faith. From the very beginning, I didn't agree with this so-called new world. I don't think we should interfere too much with everything in this world. As for this so-called new world, do you really think it's a good thing? No matter what, it's already like this. Do you still want to stop it yourself? I've never thought of doing it myself, but I do hope that someone can stop it. This world doesn't belong to us old folk. It belongs to all living beings. They have the right to choose how they want to live, and we can't force them to do so. It seems like you think highly of those little fellows. Shao Chen, Lin Yun, do you really think they can resist the origin world? You want us to compromise? Who knows? Maybe there will be a miracle. Let's see if they can survive this time. If they can't survive this time, there's no need to talk about anything else." Qiao Zhu still didn't agree with the new world. Qing Zhu didn't say anything about it. However, in his opinion, it was very difficult for Shao Chen and Lin Yun to succeed. Even with the help of the ancient creatures like the beast slaves, it was almost impossible for them to resist the origin world. Moreover, the primogenitors were obviously serious this time. The 4 primogenitors had taken action together. Even with the beast slaves, it was difficult to change anything. Or rather, it was impossible to change anything. After talking to Qiao Zhu, the 4 primogenitors and the experts of the origin world all took action and headed to the Hongmeng world. This time, the origin world didn't want to give Shao Chen and the others any chance. They wanted to destroy the alliance that Shao Chen and the others had formed. While the primogenitors were taking action, everyone in the Hongmeng world was racing against time. In the end, everyone in the alliance retreated from the Hongmeng world and hid in the various universes according to the plan. After doing all this, the Hongmeng world became quiet. Shao Chen and the others were waiting for news from the Wood Spirit. The matters of the alliance had been dealt with. The next step was to prepare to enter the origin of creation. However, there was still no news about the search for the space origin. There was no news from the Wood Spirit either. Shao Chen and the others couldn't do anything about it. After all, they couldn't help in this matter. They could only wait for news from the Wood Spirit. Calculating the time, the origin world should have already taken action. Shao Chun and the others should have retreated from the Hong Meng world as soon as possible. Therefore, they gathered together. Everyone was a little anxious. They didn't know when the wood spirit would send back news. Please collect, vote, recommend. With. According to the location given by the wood spirit, Shao Chun and the others went straight to the place where the space origin was. 2 days after they left, Ancestor Qing, Ancestor Mu, and the other experts of the origin world came to the primordial world. Through the spatial black hole in the origin world, Ancestor Qing, Ancestor Mu, and the others frowned slightly. Even with their divine consciousness, they couldn't sense the existence of any experts in the origin world. Not to mention Shao Chun and the other world lords, they couldn't even sense any immortal emperor experts. Search around, Ancestor Mu said with a gloomy face. Then, the experts from the origin world began to search around the origin world. As for Ancestor Mu and the others, they went directly to the immortal palace. Everything was as good as before, but it was empty. There was no one there. Seeing this, Ancestor Mu and the others naturally guessed that Shao Chun and the others had left long ago. They were worried about the origin world's counterattack, so Shao Chun and the others had left the origin world first. Ancestor Mu's face was gloomy as he snorted coldly. Humph! This world belongs to the origin world. Where can you run to? Ancestor Mu's words were cold. Ancestor Qing frowned secretly. Obviously, he didn't agree with Ancestor Mu's words. The primogenitors were the protectors of the world, not the controllers. Therefore, Ancestor Qing didn't like Ancestor Mu's words. However, Ancestor Qing didn't refute Ancestor Mu in front of everyone. After all, Ancestor Mu had suffered a great loss in the origin world. It was understandable that he was resentful. Everyone from the Alliance had left. Even if Ancestor Qing and the others came to the origin world personally, they couldn't do anything. It felt like they had punched cotton with all their might. They couldn't use any strength at all and could only sulk in their hearts. His heart burned with anger. Ancestor Mu had also personally destroyed Immortal Palace. Just like Mu Lingxian, with their departure, Immortal Palace naturally couldn't be preserved. The ancestors wouldn't allow Immortal Palace to continue existing. After razing the entire Immortal Palace to the ground, Ancestor Mu said coldly, "Go to the Sacred Palace, Cloud Palace, and Devil Abyss. If anyone is killed, destroy them directly." He didn't stop there. Instead, he continued to send people to the Sacred Palace, Cloud Palace, and Devil Abyss. At the same time, Ancestor Mu ordered people to continue searching for Shao Chun and the others, as well as the experts in the Alliance. Once they were found, they were to be captured alive. Those who resisted were to be killed without mercy. Ancestor Qing and the other 3 primogenitors didn't stop Ancestor Mu's series of orders. Although Ancestor Mu's actions seemed a little extreme, it was the best choice. After all, since they had decided to attack the Alliance, they naturally had to eliminate them completely. Otherwise, all their efforts would be in vain. The experts in the origin world began to move. Ancestor Mu and the other 3 primogenitors didn't return to the origin world. Instead, they stayed in the Hong Meng world. As soon as they found the whereabouts of Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others, they would take action immediately. While the primogenitors were searching for the whereabouts of Shao Chun and the others, Shao Chun and the others finally arrived at the location of the origin of space after several days of traveling. It was a separate space. Strangely, it didn't seem to exist at all. At least, Shao Chun and the others didn't feel that there was such a space. The primogenitors won't find this place, right? One of the world lords asked worriedly. In response, the beast slave smiled disdainfully. Although those old things have many tricks up their sleeves, it's still impossible for them to find the space origin unless the space origin is willing. Otherwise, even if those old things take action personally, they won't be able to find this place. Please collect, vote, recommend. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.